First up is election of officers. We need to elect a chair, vice chair, and secretary. I'll open the nominations for chair.
I'll make a motion to nominate John Hammond.
All right. Is there any other nominations for chair? All right. All those in favor of John Harmon? Aye.
Aye.
What's that?
Do we need a second?
No.
I believe the lack of another nomination.
Well, actually, the policy says you don't need a second, but anyways. All right. So motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next up, I need nomination for vice chair. I'll nominate Joe.
I was gonna say, no, you've been doing it, Tony. So do you wanna?
If he wants to do it, that's
That's what I
fine.
am.
You want to continue?
Joe doesn't want
Yeah,
to
I mean,
accept the nomination.
Don't. All right. Joe nominates Tony. I'll remove my nomination. Anybody else? All right. All those in favor of Tony for vice chair? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Now the most important one and the one that usually somebody has
Nominate
to get forced
anybody
to.
else? I'll nominate anybody else.
All right. Next up, secretary.
I'll do it.
All right. I'll nominate Joe. Thank you, Joe. Anybody else? Wait a minute. Slow down. One at a time. All right. All those in favor of Joe is secretary? Aye. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
Motion passes unanimously. All right. Next up. Recognition of school district retirees.
Yes, we have three young ladies here tonight who have retired mid-year. We'd like to recognize them. I've got a little blurb that one of my students or staff wrote about them. I'll read that and then and come up to Mr. Harmon and collect their.
I'll go to them. Don't worry.
Okay, they'll go to their gifts. So first up is Lauren Rollins. She was a Raymond High School paraeducator. She was hired in August of 2017, hired in February 23rd, 7 years with the district. Lauren is described by her peers as compassionate, loyal, gentle but firm, and always there when you need her. Her students said, "She helped me. She's beautiful." And when they heard she was leaving, come on. Her administrators would say she would do anything for anyone and never said no. She will be sorely missed here at RHS. Best wishes, Lauren, and thank you for your service. Next up is Elizabeth Boucher, Ivor Holmes Middle School paraeducator. She was hired in August of 2006, retired December 31st, 17 years with the district. Beth spent most of her years supporting students and teachers in the 7th and 8th grades. Beth has been an integral part of our school community, providing unwavering support to students, teachers, and staff. Her commitment to our students has contributed to countless students' academic growth and success over the years. Her support in the classrooms and throughout the school will be greatly missed. Her gentle manner, graciousness, and approach to our students can best be expressed by one of her students. Ms. Boucher helps me focus, helps me keep track of my work, and as always has my back. We are grateful for the years of service, hard work, and dedication that Beth has given our school. And last is Gail Ernest, accounts payable at SAU, hired in January 2000, retiring March 29th, 24 years with the district. Gail has been a central figure of our finance department as the accounts payable specialist since her hire in 2000. She's been relied upon for her responsiveness, organization, and attention to detail, as well as maintaining relationships and financial agreements with our vendors. Part of her work has included support for the facilities department and participation on several committees and boards, including RESS leadership, the RESS negotiating team, the Energy and Utilities Reduction Committee, the Safety Committee, and the Joint Loss Committee. Gail has been a welcoming member of our SAU staff all the way to London. We are thankful to have been able to share our everyday with her for many years, and we wish her all the best for her retirement.
Jeez. Thank you to all the retirees. If any of the retirees would like to say, or give us a word, that's fine. If not, that's okay also. Your choice. All right. Thank you. Again, thank you for the service.
Thank you very much.
Next up, introductions, incoming student representative to the school board, Ms. Clark, Raylene Clark, right? Ryland, sorry.
All right.
If you want to just give us a brief grade, who you are.
My name is Rylan Clark. I'm a junior here at Raymond High School. I'm a student athlete. I'm a varsity cheerleader and varsity softball player. I am in numerous clubs here, site council, prom committee, SALT, student athletic leadership team, everything in between. I'm probably there. I'm also this year's current Miss Raymond 2023. So you will quite literally see me everywhere. So
Very good. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, if we get a motion to go into non-public, please.
I'll make a motion to go into non-public section on the RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2B.
Second,
Second.
we get a second by Steve. Joe,
Yes.
Cindy,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and myself, yes.
Just look at me. I'll kill you. We do not go in there.
Preferred actually.
won the first place for the medal flight. So yeah, it was fun.
Does that mean you're the state champion or?
Technically, I
Of the
don't.
loser.
Yeah, I always like to hate on me. Yeah, technically.
That was harsh. Nice job.
So it's not technically, you are the state champion of the medal for bowling. Is that, okay.
My name is Drezel Dufa. I play for the varsity basketball team here. I was the team captain for it. We finished our season 8-10. We made it to playoffs for the first time in a couple of years. We played in a tournament in the winter around Christmas. It was a Christmas tournament. We played in the Farmington tournament and we won the sportsmanship award for that, which was a really cool award to win out of all the teams that were in it. And yeah, I had various accomplishments. I scored 1,000 points this season for our team. And well, my whole high school career, I scored 1,000 points. I hit my point this season. We also had a player, Caden Clater. He made the defensive all-state team. Only 5 players get picked for that, I think. So that was a great accomplishment for him as well. And
My name is Gustavo da Silva, I'm a junior, and I was a part of a winter track varsity team. And team I ran, we broke the 4x200 for the late time for the school records. It was a great season, a lot of competition. It was fun.
My name is Colin McGovern. I was on the varsity bowling team. I usually play basketball, but I took it off this year to focus on bowling. I ended up winning the state championship for the upper flight. Abby, like, even though she won the medal flight, she did a great job during the tournament. I use a two-handed style when I roll. I used to do it one-handed, and I averaged around a 140 my freshman year, and I bumped it up to a 180 this year. And I ended up doing really good in the tournament. I averaged around a 200 going into it, and I seeded first place, which gave me a double bye to the championship. And then I tied in the championship match, and we had a roll off. It's just a 2-frame roll off, and whoever does the best out of that is the winner. And I ended up beating last year's state champion in that.
I'm Maddie Donahue. I threw shot put for the winter track team. I have our girls indoor shot put record. I went to states and I placed second. So then I moved on to New England's, which is like all the top people in New England go and throw together. It was like a super cool experience. I appreciate my coaches for getting me there. And
Very good. Questions, comments for student athletes? Go ahead, Joe.
I know that you guys, somebody was looking into whether or not this was the first school to ever have a champion in the championship in the medal flight bowling. Do you know if that's the case or not?
I'm not really sure.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. But the last time was like 24. So it's been a while.
Great job to all of you.
Yeah,
It was a
congratulations.
tournament for sure.
Congratulations to you all on your accomplishments.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up, technology. Whoops, I'm gonna do it again. Next up, student representative school board. Go ahead.
So we've had a lot of great things happening here at RHS within the past couple of weeks. A week or so ago, we had the I'm forgetting the name now, but we had a distracted driving tour come in and educate all of the grades through 9th through 12th on the dangers of distracted driving, which is a really cool opportunity and great experience to have overall. Most recently today, we had a job fair commenced during first and second lunch, and it was also an opportunity to stay for an extended time after. We had over 50 businesses, schools, I believe all of the branches of the armed services come out, and students really overall enjoyed that. And then, of course, this week, our spring sports started, which is baseball, softball, and track. And to my knowledge, those have been going very well. And then finally coming up tomorrow night at 6, we have our Mr. Raymond pageant, which is something that they have not done within the past couple of years, but it is coming back, and they are using it as a fundraiser for the senior class this year. And I believe they have 13 or 14 guys going out for it, which is quite the number considering. So I think that'll be a fun event. I would invite you all to come out and watch if you're available. I will be judging
Oh,
Miss Raven, so
very good. Thank you.
no problem.
Next up, technology report, Matt. Wasn't sure if you needed help with
Yeah, I was gonna
connecting things
say.
up, apparently.
All right, so, first we have, we finally have a full team in the tech department. This is, Joey. We hired him to be the high school tech. He previously worked at UNH and he went to UNH, so, he has a lot of networking experience and, he's been working on hardware, fixing Chromebooks now. So far it's worked out great. Staff and students seem to like them a lot, so that's good. So in December, we finished finally the installation of all the cameras for the elementary school and middle school. We've been working with the company on a couple updates, such as faster playback speed, you know, working on the playback in general, because we had a couple hiccups there, but I can probably say we're running at like 98% now. I think the staff there, everyone really likes the cameras. They're cloud-based versus in-house storage, which was a big thing. A lot less issues with, you know, camera footage being lost or anything like that. As far as the access points, which is the wireless system, we did a bunch of upgrades over the Christmas break. You know, upgrading the firmware, making sure there wasn't unknown clients on the wireless for schools, going through devices, stuff like that. I did put interviews for the tech because that is when we hired the new tech. We did have, I have to say, Indeed helped a lot with that. We probably got like 30 people that applied after posting on Indeed. Before that, we were getting no one. So that was really nice boost there and very helpful. So, with the CISA report, again, that's a very long report that basically we got from a company a couple years ago, and you know, we're always doing things to increase the security here. We do multiple things throughout the day. I just want to add that on there to make it known that we're always doing improvements. And then I put Gov Deals on here because we sold actually a lot of items over the past couple months. Especially the cameras that were on the ceiling or wall, etc. We ended up selling those, so they didn't just go to waste. You know, I've sold some other stuff as well, but that's been very good, and we have more stuff that we're going to be selling over the next couple months. So in January, we set up quarantine spam filters, which we did have, but we improved them a lot. So there's been a lot of phishing emails to schools lately, and we've been making sure that they never make it to the users now, which I think in the past couple months I've probably caught like 20 before they got to people's inbox. So basically sent it to a quarantine area, and I or someone from my team can read the email before it gets to, say, Terry's inbox, so that we don't have a problem where, you know, it starts going widespread throughout the district. So that's something we've been working on. As well as inventory accounts. We do the best we can when people leave the district or, you know, stuff like that. Sometimes their accounts slip through the weeds and are still active or, you know, stuff like that. So we actually went through and made sure we checked everyone's account and removed people from groups just in case we had a security risk, you know, someone that account shouldn't have been activated, won't have any access to certain groups or stuff like that. Summer Chromebook collection, I discussed with the team now. I had a couple ideas and that I worked in previous districts and a little bit different than the previous tech director did here. So I don't want to roll the plan out yet, but I did discuss it with my team members and we're working on kind of a more efficient way we can collect them and, you know, inventory them and update them for the next school year. One big thing me and Cam did, we worked on the grade scale here when we had the issue there before the semester ended. That went very well, and we ran around the school and touched everyone's laptop, made sure everything was correct in the settings, and going forward now everything's correct and everything's working properly, so that's good. We just did this today, but PSAT and SAT, we helped with the rostering of the students. And we also did, I think it was called Life Check today with the high school for the juniors. Made sure that the Blue Book app is working, and we have the tech office set up as a center for when they need help during PSAT day or SAT. And then I helped the athletic director here launch Final Forms, which is how the athletes are now registering. They used to use the Power School forms that I created, but those were a little bit difficult to navigate because you had to have the staff and the students sign different pages, and I think it got a little confusing. So this is it's a great program. I think it's been working great. I haven't really. Jeremy said we got every student so far for the spring athletes to sign up, and everything's been working there. So in February, March, I know last time I was here, I talked about Windows 11, and so we've been working on more of like a base image, we call it, which would be for like teacher laptops and stuff like that. So far, we are almost done that, but we were able to update the computer lab here to Windows 11. 30. We also did get new computers for her already this year. And we have swapped out those. I think I was able to get 15 or 14. So she has new computers that are more upgraded. And we also updated the previous ones to Windows 11. So the entire cart running Windows 11. And Windows 10 is end of life in September of next year, I believe. So we have a little bit of time. We don't need to move all the teachers yet. But I think if we can get the image done, might be something we were looking into for the summer. One thing we did over the past February break was a firewall update. We took the whole network down and we updated the firewall, which is something we've been scared to do for a little bit, but it went good. So I think the internet was only down 10 minutes and Harry was a happy guy. So. Internet on, that's what he said. Another big thing we did was with Frontline, we have the time and attendance piece that we're going to be using, and me and Cam worked on the time clocks, which I'm sure you've seen. There's 2 at each building, and 1 at the SAU. They look like iPads on the wall, and they use the badges that they use to get in the building or to print. And when they tap it, it clocks them in for the day. So we worked on getting all those set up. They're powered by PoE, so we ran lines to each location, and we've been helping HR and the SAU with putting in the badge numbers and making sure everything runs smoothly there. They also are IP based, so someone can't be clocking in from their living room. They have to be in the school, which is good. That was a big project that is working well. And then the computer card I already kind of talked about, but we did get those new 14 computers and we've already swapped them out. And so far. I think they've been working great. I haven't heard any complaints, so that's good. And then another thing we just launched last week was kindergarten new student registration. I think we launched that on Wednesday last week, so that is open for kindergarten only right now. And then I think we open it later in the year for the other grades, but that went well, and we added a couple changes and new additions to that. A couple projects coming up, obviously, is the image. We're working on an image for teachers and the lab machines. Those are like the main two we have. Network segregation, which we do have now. We're trying to do it on the wireless as well as the wired network. So right now we only have it working on the wired network, but if we could get it working on the wireless, that would definitely help with our traffic and make sure everything's routed correctly. And then one big thing, we have the Connex box outside, which is where we store like old smart boards that we had on the wall or computer cards, a lot of equipment, and it's getting pretty full out there. So I posted everything. I'm currently posting it on Gov Deals, and then if it doesn't sell, I do have a recycler that we use, and he's coming on April vacation week to take whatever we didn't sell. So that'll be good to get that stuff out there. And then another thing, so I was asked to tell you about Go Guardian Teacher. So there's kind of two parts to this program. The Go Guardian is what we use as the tech and principals. You know, I get alerts if a student looks up something that's flagged as inappropriate, or I can go in and put them in a different group so that they can't access YouTube. So there's that side of it. And then there's also the teacher side, which how that works is the teacher goes to the website, and I have some pictures I'll show, and she can see the student screens. And, you know, if some student is not paying attention or she sees them on a different program, she can actually click on it and, you know, send them a little like message and say like, please go back to Google Classroom, and he'll see it. Or, you know, she can also lock down his computer if she wants. So if he's on a game site, she can actually go in and add the game site to the block list, which then in his screen, it won't let him go to it anymore. So it kind of keeps more on track. So those are called scenes, so that the teacher can only do this during their class time. So she would set up scenes for like 9 o'clock to 10:30 if that's block 1 or 2. And then during that scene, she only can see the student she has in class screen. Like I said, you can do block websites allowed. I mean, you can even make it so they can't get to any website but the one you allow. So if you wanted to do that, and then once the scene ends or the class ends, the student's Chromebook will go back to how it was. There's also a lot of reports you can run, kind of shows what the student's browsing activity was during the classroom session. So it won't show what I see on my side of everything, but it'll show what they were doing during class time. It has pie charts of activity, different documents they were in, Google searches, and a lot of that type of stuff. And then this is kind of more for data purposes, but you can see how many times the teacher had to lock the student's device, or, you know, a new tab was open, etc. And then I put this in the slide. This is kind of goes to this is kind of like an overview. You can click on all these, but the main one I thought was good is this one right here. This is kind of like how the teacher would create a scene. It kind of shows what it looks like. So this is where they would say, like, you know, I want to allow YouTube, and they would just create a list, type in the URL, and hit go, and it'll go to the students so they can get on YouTube. And then if they want to block the websites, they just add it to this side. And I mean, that's pretty much it for that. We do have it here, I believe, for the computer teacher. She only uses it. She's been using it for years since I've been here, and it works great for her. So other than that, this is kind of like what it shows. So this is the student screen. So it'll say the name of the student. The green dot means they're active, and then it shows what they're doing. And, you know, you can go up here and hit create new scene, or they can block something for the entire class or just one student, so. Like I said, we don't use the teacher part as much here. We mostly use the admin side more, but if teacher part is something we wanted to use. It's not much of a setup. I think it's more we'd have to train the teachers on how to use it. And that's all I got.
Questions, comments? Go ahead, Joe.
Lock screen, if they wanted, a teacher wanted to lock kids out or allow them, actually, I should say, to use YouTube. Is there, I couldn't see it on there, but is there a way to, is it a time thing? Like they could use it for the day, or does it, when, if they unlock it, is it unlocked until the teacher locks it back up again?
Yeah, so if they, well, it would, yeah, so it would depend. If the, say I'm in your class and you lock me out, then that kid's locked out the whole class period. And then when the scene ends, now the student's Chromebook goes back to normal. So the next teacher would have to lock them out too. Doesn't stay locked the whole day. That would be more on my side if I add them to a custom group, and then like we have groups called No YouTube. And if I put them in there, then they can't get to YouTube the whole day. And also this program, you can have at home mode, but we don't have that here. So all the things we do to the student Chromebooks, it's when they're in schools. Thank you.
Matt, the scene you were talking about, is that something the teacher would have to set up each and every day, or would they set it up for semester, here at the high school, semester 1, they've got these 5 classes? How would that work?
No, they would set it up for like the semester or the trimester. Yeah, I think the teacher here, I believe it syncs to their Google Classroom. So it actually builds the sections for her, and then it has a student, she just inputs the students in. So yeah, you would have to make it every trimester, semester, but it does save every day. So you can just go in and click start scene when the block starts, and then.
You have a recommendation for us?
I think that after listening to Tom, and the minor instances of, Chromebook misuse that causes headaches, this would be a way to eliminate some of the headaches with minimal administration and teacher
Intervention.
Thank you.
So this is a proposal to use.
We have it. We just, years ago, when they first bought GoGuardian, the board said that they did not want it used for that purpose. So we're saying, I think now that
Enable the feature.
enable the feature, because it's becoming, kids have gotten smarter. So it's just, we used it in Barrington, and I'm telling you, it was remarkable of how it managed some of the behaviors.
And we can track a lot of data, right, Matt, about what. So obviously we would know if you looked up a student's profile, if they were blocked, when they were blocked, what they were blocked from.
Yeah, if I go to a kid, it actually will tell me how many times they visited a blocked site. So, and then also in the history, you can see like youtube.com, it'll say blocked, and you can see them try and click it like 30 times. I have to say at the middle school, we get a lot of tickets from teachers to detect there that'll say like, please look up Matt's history from 8:30 to 8:50 and whatever game whatever site they're on, please block. So we do a lot of that now, which is fine, but I think if they had this enabled, they could kind of see on their own versus us trying to go back and see what was, not schoolwork from 8:50 or 8:30 to 8:50.
Was some of the concerns previously about being able to see what's on the screen?
In my mind.
If it's a school device and you're in school, then
I'm saying, yeah,
you don't have that.
that was the concern.
No, I don't think that's a problem. It's not like there's nothing on their screen that
Shouldn't be.
we don't already know about.
Correct.
So is there,
Do we have an action to take?
what's that, Steve? Okay, go ahead, Cindy.
Why did the board, do you know what
That was,
thing they would have?
I don't know. I think it was what Steve said, privacy. They thought that we could go and look at home or everywhere, and
We already had
Yeah.
access.
Joe, I think, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe when we first looked at this, it was during COVID, so most of the kids had their computers at home. And that was definitely one of the concerns, is because.
I don't want people the remote running.
So, sorry, just as with a distinction, we don't get camera access.
No,
Okay. I'm sure that was one of the biggest concerns is people think you can see through the camera.
no, all I can see is like history.
Yeah.
That's really it.
You get a screen share.
No location, camera access, nothing like that.
Okay. I just want to make sure that was clear because I know that might be
Yeah.
a concern for folks.
Go ahead.
I know there's some people that technology is their thing. Are there some teachers that this might be too, like, they don't want to bother with it? Or do you think all the teachers are pretty on board with something like this?
As with anything, I think there's some that won't use them. But
But it just makes it available for those.
it's another tool that they can have, and eventually if it, the teacher is complaining about a student repeatedly, we can say, hey, we've given you the tool, you need to use it. And I can say too, that if a kid is at home, we've done this too, and abusing their school Chromebook at home, going to sites they shouldn't be going to, and the parents are on board, we can block those too. So we can be used to block stuff at home too. But we would tell it's a team effort then. The parents are like, listen, my kid keeps going to the site. We told them they're grounded and they keep, well, then we'll shut her down. Or we can set restrictions too, or that they can do their homework from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock and then, we can block stuff.
So I assume it would have to be blocked while they're here. I'm just thinking, how do we get access to their machines if it's on a home wireless network?
Well, I think it's because they log in through Gmail and we own their Google account.
To their Google
It
account?
goes to their Google account.
That makes more sense.
So when I move the student, I'm basically moving their Google account into different groups.
Okay.
Can they just they can't create a new Google account?
No, they can only sign into their school account on their own.
I know I had issues with my own family. I was like, I'll try this, I'll try that. I get it. I can't imagine. I think that would be a good tool if I were a teacher and.
So I guess, would the board like to have the ability or allow the teachers the ability to use Go Guardian?
I think so.
I would say yes.
Good.
How much is it to be able to have all the teachers, students? I know we usually pay per pupil or whatever.
Yeah, I asked that question, and as far as I can tell, I think we already have it. We don't have the teachers set up. Because I tested it with a teacher too, and there was no added costs in my end, so I think it's just something we didn't use, but I can double check and make sure before we.
So-
On the people.
Why did we buy it then?
Yeah, what is it?
Is that just something that we got as a precautionary measure with the whole one-to-one model? And I'm kind of confused as to why we would have this if just let it sit there and not use it.
That is why we got it, because it was one-to-one. The teachers were able to, or would be able to, look on the screens of the teachers. But
So we bought the ability for them to do that, but never let them do it.
Well,
we do have some-
parts of the program, really. I mean, those Go Guardian as a whole is like a filtering thing.
Yeah.
So there's the admin side and teacher side. So
Okay.
we're using it a lot. Just the teacher side, I think we haven't really rolled it out a lot compared to a couple teachers. For example, at the middle school, we recently did it, which is a little different, but we built a group and we put, I believe it's the behavior coaches in a group. And they wanted certain students that have the issues where they're going to the wrong sites. So me and my coworker filled classes just in Go Guardian for that. So all these teachers are technically teachers of the class, and if the student's acting up, they can all go in and actually apply. They can block sites or not. So we set that up for them. I'm not really sure if they fully used it yet, but that was kind of where this discussion, I think, came.
So we use it
We use it
for
a
the
lot.
generic filtering.
Yeah.
We just haven't been using the teacher side.
Yeah.
Do we need to do a motion? Is that the deal?
No, I think everybody's on board with allowing the teachers. Is that fair to say? Right. So just work with, Harry on the cost side. If there's a cost side, then that's a different discussion, but
Yeah, I'll definitely double check for them.
thank you.
Do we need to go guardian reports now and then
Oh, gosh, heavens.
how many kids are accessing
Oh,
and sites and how many attempts? And
prefer not, but that's all right. Anything else for Matt? Well, we've got Matt here.
Why can't I get on the Wi-Fi?
Thanks, Matt. Next up, Raymond High School schedule. Terry?
Yes, one of the first things that, when I started here a year ago, there was discussion about the high school schedule, how effective it was, and what we could do about it. We talked about getting a committee together last year. It didn't happen. And so Pete and I talked again, and it has happened. So we do have the high school committee here. It's made up of teachers and students, parents and admin. And so they've worked very hard to create a schedule that they feel is equitable to students and to teachers, and they'd like to present it. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Josh Forkey. I'm a social studies teacher at Raymond High School. I'm also the chair of the scheduling committee. I'm flanked by two parents, Daniel Luger, Cars, and to my left, got Tom Conch, who is the science department head, and Elaine Broom, who's the social studies department head, also on the committee. So just as I'm sure you're well aware, got 94-minute blocks at the high school. For a few years, there's been feedback that we've gotten, formal, informal, that sort of asked about changes to that schedule and what sorts of things might be beneficial and not beneficial. And so that was what we started with back in early September of this year, meeting weekly to sort of sort out that business. And so we did find data that made it reasonable to try and propose a different schedule.
All right, so did a lot of research and we found a few things. First of all, with the blocks themselves, turns out that the average 16-year-old attention span is about 48 minutes. So 94 minutes, obviously, is a lot greater than that. So unless there are transitions and stuff, high school students tend to lose their attention span anyway. And we found that with blocks, top students have a negligible positive impact, but for the lower performing students, it's pretty detrimental. And I have some information about that. But also with blocks themselves, that the social emotional benefits have been positive, because obviously with an adult for a longer period of time, you tend to build stronger relationships with that adult. But what we've noticed here, so with the help of Matt and the tech department, ran some numbers, we found that the skinny block students perform better. It turned out that there are 10 more failures per block compared to the skinny, roughly. So, so clearly the skinny block.
Yeah, that skinny block is that 45-minute block we have every day-ish versus the longer one.
Yeah, no problem. And speaking, I teach both math and science. And in science, of course, the longer periods are great for labs. We're not doing labs every day. We try to do that, you know. And then with math, the shorter periods tend to be a little, I think, better for the students, because when you see them more often in a shorter period, they get to, practice the material, and then, it's more material. Whereas with science, the longer blocks are better for labs. So it's kind of a balancing act.
You want your kids to be successful, and we want your kids to be successful. And that's the bottom line. Kids are not apathetic or disinterested or distracted. They're just teenagers. They can do so much and then they're done. And that's why this proposed schedule would be such a tool to help your kids be successful. If you look at this data, teachers felt that 94 minutes, it's too much. It's a lot, it's over an hour and a half. And only to see kids 2.5 times a week. Yesterday, Tuesday, I had my classes. I hadn't seen them since the previous Friday with teenagers. That's 2 weekend days and another school day. It's like start all over again. Teachers see this. When the kids were surveyed, they felt they could they couldn't maintain their attention. They can't sustain it. They're kids. And they felt they could understand the information better in shorter classes. Parents expressed some shortening of the classes. Maybe that's the way to pursue this, because maybe their kids, all the kids, could be adversely affected by longer classes. When you look at these 3 groups, it's like a meeting of the minds. I think we see it from 3 different perspectives. This schedule could make it happen, and that's what we want for your kids.
So we're not gonna go through all that, but those are the variables that we kind of had to contend with as we adjusted and tried to play with the schedule best we can. With the proposed schedule that we had, some good things kind of showed up in it that we weren't expecting. Some complications showed up that we weren't expecting either, that we sort of saw, but it was the best that we could do with all of these moving parts. There was just a lot of moving parts. The key one that we really wanted to hit, though, when we were looking at the data and when we were looking at feedback from teachers and about what they wanted and what was needed, the idea of having block days, only, having your block day period once a week, science, not enough. Like there's some groups that we need more than just like, I need to see them longer more than once. But there were other groups that also said, because we had a year where we had 1 skinny and then 2 blocks. 1 skinny doesn't help either. It just makes this kind of like crazy day that's not consistent either. It just kind of creates more chaos, and it doesn't fix the problem of seeing a certain group of students for a certain amount of days. And so we tried to compromise the best we could, trying to find a certain number of days that we could have blocks that was more than 1, and a certain amount of days that we could have as shorter periods that was more than 1. And so what we compromised on was this. And there's a lot of things that this schedule does that addresses a lot of concerns and issues that teachers brought up. For starters, Monday and Friday, call them bookend days, no longer skinny days, but bookend days, because it bookends the week. And every teacher will see all of their kids Monday and Friday. You get them started, you close it out. Pretty straightforward. That way you can start fresh the next week. Then in those middle 3 days, that's where our blocks are. They're no longer 94 minutes. Again, that was something that we got feedback about. It's too long. But in order to make it 3 days, we had to also cut the time. So there's 68 minutes, which is still longer than 45. It's a good chunk of time. Again, Tom, is that enough time to do lab? Yes, he says yes. Science department head backs me up on that. Okay, so again, it's enough time to do a lab. It's enough time to do a practice AP test. It's enough time to do bigger classroom activities, while still allowing for the flexibility of having it twice in that middle chunk. So as you can see, in the front 3 periods, it rotates a little bit, and in the back 3 periods, it rotates a little bit. You had to block off the AM and PM because of AM and PM SST. We couldn't have a full rotating schedule or something like that, because then AM SST would miss too many classes or PM SST would miss too many classes, and it wasn't consistent. This creates nice, consistent compromise across the board. Again, that period 4 happens every day. That one has to be that 45 minutes. There is no blocks there. That is to sort of work with the SST scheduling. And it's a period where we put our lunch. So it kind of syncs up as well. Again, creating sort of a more consistent lunch than we also have now. Right now, our lunches could either be 10:30 or 12:08. And if you're a kid who's got a 10:30 lunch one day and a 12:08 lunch the other day, stomach's all over. Teacher stomachs are all over the place. It is what it is.
Yeah, so why this schedule? So as Mr. Forkey has said, we're going to see the students 4 days a week. So they're more consistently seeing their teachers. It's better for their academics. It's better for that trusted adult. We're going to continue just having more face-to-face time. With unexpected days off, like a snow day, sometimes a teacher will only see their student once a week and that. So this way, even if we get a snow day, even if we have 2 snow days, we'll still be able to see these students more consistently. The schedule has both blocks and days with class for every day. They have blocks and classes each day. So we meet the best of both of students. SST has access to RAM. Morning SST does not currently have RAM. And so now every SST student will have access to RAM. And we're making it more equitable so currently SST students are missing 2 classes in the morning, AM SST are missing 2, and the PM SST students are missing 4. And the new schedule, they'll each miss 3, so it'll be more consistent. And like Mr. Forkey said, the lunches will be more consistent. The kids will have it the same time every day. And then improved logistics for food service. There's not that hour gap in between, and it could possibly cut the costs.
And the committee took very seriously feedback from the stakeholders. So at the beginning of this process in October, we had a survey for teachers and staff, for parents, and for students. We took that into account and we did the data collection and we came up with the schedule. After we made a proposed schedule, we also went back and at a faculty meeting, it was presented to the teachers and the staff, and it was presented to parents at a PSO meeting, and it was presented to all underclassmen, students during RAM, and every one of those groups were able to vote on this. And across the board, it was about 67% buy-in in terms of the proposed schedule. So we worked very hard to try to collect as much information from all of these stakeholder groups and come up with a schedule that we thought would be useful. And we could speak, Danielle and I, most about the parent feedback, but parents that came to that PSO meeting and parents who we did not have a lot of parents respond to the survey because it was a short time period. We had more percentage-wise respond on the teachers and the student side, but they were very happy that it addressed a number of different needs. It also addressed some things that we didn't intend to address, like the lunches, like the regular weekly schedule. And that was important to us to try to involve as much feedback from those 3 groups.
So again, just as a sort of culmination, conclusion here, again, it was really a lot of compromise. There were some teachers and people who wanted 45-minute classes every day. There were some teachers who lived and died by this 94-minute schedule that we currently have. This tries to sort of be the middle ground while just making it more consistent and equitable for all of the high school students. And again, trying to balance things out to just be a little more efficient and just better serving our community and not just being, hey, blocks, throw them in and see what works. We really tried to take a lot of what goes on in the school into account when we made it. Again, there's still some little edges that need to get sanded down a little bit, as you probably saw in the proposal. But for the most part, we really do think that this can be better for our students. So if you have any questions, fire away.
Questions, comments for the scheduling committee?
I have more of a perspective comment as well. I've had the privilege of having both Mr. Forkey and Ms. Byrne and Mr. Koch is my advisor for RAM in class. And while I did enjoy having Mr. Forkey talk for 94 minutes at 7:30 in the morning, it was not necessarily my favorite part of the day. And I would invite you to sit in a class with Mr. Forkey for 94 minutes at 7:30 in the morning.
7:30 in the morning.
Yes, to clarify.
I'll give you that.
But I think this really does meet the best of both worlds, and this entire committee has truly taken the thought of all parties involved for this schedule. And I think, as you saw with the students' percentages, only 58%, which is still greater than 50%. I think students are very afraid of change here. However, I think if we have survived this past year's level of change, and especially within the past couple of years, I think this change would do absolutely more good than bad. And so I just ask that, take that possibly into consideration as you make that motion tonight.
Good, Steve.
I guess I have a question more for Terry on this. I see, or maybe for everyone, but there's an MOU change proposed. Does that fit with what we would need it to be? I just did a quick read through of
It
it.
would be something the board would have to discuss, not now.
Right, okay. I mean, it seems to make sense from what I'm seeing.
Okay.
That was our goal. Trying to make something that made sense.
Oh, so that's Steve.
Yeah, thank you.
Joe?
I will say that I have an 8th grader coming up to the high school. I wasn't too happy actually when she saw this schedule, because the first thing she said was, I'm gonna have so much homework on Mondays and Fridays.
So we talked about that and that was the biggest negative feedback. There was 2 negative feedback points we got from students. One of which we adjusted for, which was we used to have the little blocks rotate. And so on Thursday, period 3 was first, period 7 was first. And kids who had early release or late arrival, they hated that. So we switched it to what it is now so that we can. The homework piece we discussed in committee, we discussed with other teachers. And it's possible, but it's also possible that instead of getting, because what currently happens is you get 2 days worth of homework that's due in 2 days, right? Now it would be 1 day's worth of homework due in 1 day. And it is possible that there's more homework. But again, we discussed it. It's like, well, it really shouldn't be. Instead of getting 30 problems from math, you'll get 15. It'll be more spread out, which for some students will actually be better. Again, when we looked at the data for the high achievers versus the low achievers, the likelihood of someone who's not in the top 75% of students doing the big massive homework assignment, even if they have 2 days, is super low. Doing a 15-question assignment is higher. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Again, a high achieving student is going to look at the other way where it's like, oh my gosh, I have 15 every night now instead of being able to kind of use my own time. Again, it's a give and take. Is it possible? Yes. It's also possible that it might end up being about the same. Unfortunately, we can't speak to it until we're in it. But you're not alone. That was definitely something, and we tried to say we can only do the best we can with what we got.
Tom, could you speak to, as a teacher that has done the 7-period day, as a teacher, how did you handle that? Knowing that in this case, it was actually every day of the week, but a little different.
We're lucky because back then when we had 7 periods, honors science classes had double lab periods.
Yep.
So we had 90 minutes for labs, which we need 45 minutes to just go into a lab. And a lot of labs like chemistry stuff, you can't stop the lab and just start the next day because it's a reaction going on. But with the amount of work, so I looked, back at my plans for, when I was doing the 7-period day, especially when we were going through the schedule, and I covered a lot more material. Of course, when you cover a lot more material, there's more homework. But you don't, I don't think you give as much because now you're trying to cover as much as you can. And, with a 94-minute period, you're covering a 45-minute period, of course. But then you're also giving, as Josh said, nearly double the homework, because you want to cover, as much as you can and also have the students, practice it. So I think with shorter periods, you cover more material. The homework, I think it's really dependent on, how the teacher runs the class, and I don't have a better answer than that.
But no, thank you. I just know you had a different perspective in the sense of having taught here with the 7-period. So I just, thank you.
Through a lot of iterations, and we had a 7-period day for, I don't know how many years, decades. And then all of a sudden now we've been changing the schedule quite often, it seems. I do think, so I do think this is the better of what we've had.
Go ahead, Joe.
I will reiterate, she was not in favor of this schedule.
It was strange to look at the student data. When we looked at the classes, the juniors and sophomores were more in support of it. And the freshmen were barely in support of it. So it seemed that as the students spent more time, again, in those juniors and sophomores, again, the sophomores have already been in it in a year, the juniors have been in it for 2 years, certainly have some animosity towards the current schedule, and the ones who are currently in it just getting started. Again, unless we have every teacher here and we go through and like, well, how are you gonna do homework? We won't know for sure. Won't know until we know. That's right.
Go ahead.
Well, I would also like to say that, throughout my time at Raymond High School, I've only had one class where the teacher consistently assigns homework. And it was not any of these three. Shout out to them for that.
There you go.
But it's mostly in class work where if you spend the time in class and you get it done. So just to kind of cover the homework issue, it's especially in this digital age, I guess, it's changed quite a bit. So.
Thank you.
Shockingly, I have a few questions. I wouldn't want to disappoint you, Terry.
Prepping.
I didn't want to disappoint you. One of my concerns is how we going to handle our chorus teacher and our band teacher. And I know in the proposal, it was discussed and it logically half day versus half day. But the problem we've got is we've got start time at one school different than so my question is, what is the resolution for that?
We've spoken to Tom, we've spoken to Randy, and we've spoken to Ellie. And they've assured us they can make it work. I don't have it.
Okay,
You know,
if they're comfortable,
They're
then
comfortable with it.
that's my concern, because obviously if you create a problem, hopefully we can, and we knock them off.
John, can I?
Go ahead.
About Randy and Ellie too, because they made comments about it.
Sure.
Both of them felt that they're kind of disconnected from both schools being on every other day. And so the hope is they'll be connected at both schools instead.
Okay.
And again, they will just want programs. And they really liked, Randy was adamant about more daily times to practice.
Mhm. Yeah, I can
It's hard
appreciate-
For an hour and a half, you can only get so far, but being able to practice more,
Mhm.
again, he was really willing to make the
Okay.
trade-offs to make it work.
Right. The other part, and I had communication via email with you, Terry, regarding lunches for SST afternoon. What is it that we're looking to do there? And the problem, just for people at home, SST bus currently leaves at 11:35?
Correct.
Although today, Pete actually.
He was-
You can speak to that a little bit today, right?
The bus today left at 11:45. So based on that time frame, 11:45, the students would miss 3 to 5 minutes of their lunch period. And we haven't, if that's the time that they're consistently leaving at, we have not heard from SST that it is any concern that they're getting there, leaving at 11:45. We have not tracked it as such to see what specifically time they are departing from the school. But given the communication today, we did, keep an eye out for that, and they did pull away from the school at 11:45 today. So if that is their consistent time, that is going to give those kids just under 3 to 5 minutes off that time for the lunch period. And state requirements are suggested, not required or recommended to be 20 minutes.
So anyways, to continue, currently the schedule on Monday and Friday lunch ends at 11:46, Tuesday through Thursday, 11:48. And the concern would be obviously making sure that they have, those students have the ability to eat a lunch and eat it in a calm manner, as calm as a school environment lends itself to. How about that? And that's why I was concerned, because if they're leaving at 11:35, that obviously half of a lunch period doesn't seem fair. So, and then you had mentioned the possibility of picking them up on the CAF side. Okay, and I know that's not happening now.
But it would save time again.
Okay. All right, thank you. Then there are getting my notes, understand, sorry. And Tom, you mentioned science, you're comfortable with the 68, and I know science is the unique, for lack of a better way of saying it, with labs and such in the building.
Yeah, well, I mean, the science, I'd like the longest class possible for labs, and for math, I'd like a shorter.
Well, I know,
Sort of,
but I was just trying to get the science department's comfortable with the schedule.
yeah,
I mean, and I realize because anytime you do anything with any schedule, you're gonna have unhappy people.
Right.
And you're gonna have happy people. I don't envy you guys, so I understand that.
Science was 50. If I remember.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Then what we'll be doing, and this is not for the committee, more Terry and Pete. For example, Thanksgiving week, 2 days. What is the plan for that? And it happens every year, so it's not unique.
Again, off the top of my head, it's either a Monday, Tuesday schedule or it's two skinnies. I think we'd have to go back and look at past history as to what they have done and what's most effective. Two skinnies. Yeah, so it'd be two bookend days.
I would hope, but that was,
Yeah, I mean,
again,
again,
reason I ask is because, and then of course, the only other days, other than Monday and Tuesday that we missed during the next school year are Tuesdays, not coincidentally, because it's election day. And I know there's been discussions about resolutions for that. It was my concern about a Monday and then a Tuesday, and then the students are gonna miss a class that week, so. I think you guys covered everything else, so thank you.
If I could just make one. The committee did recommend that aside from if it's not a 2-day week, because it's a Tuesday for a voting day.
Yep.
That block days kind of take more precedent, so that Monday might become that Tuesday.
Tuesday. That was my thought, but I'll let
And we tried
everybody
to make
else.
sense, we did.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed Raymond High School schedule. The only caveat I would have is if we, with the understanding that we reach an MOU with the REA.
Make a motion that we accept the proposed Raymond High School schedule with the caveat that we get to.
Reach an
go over
MOU.
reach an MOU with the REA.
I'll second that.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much for you and the rest of the committee. Thank you.
Much for your work.
John, we are way out of schedule. I thought you were going to talk more, Terry. All right. Raymond High School Wall of Honor.
Yeah, one of the things that I have been thinking about is outreach to community, how we can do that. It's difficult. So how could we as a district take that step? I'm not gonna lie, I went back to my old hometown, little bitty Edgerton, Ohio, and they started a wall of honor several years ago honoring their veterans. And so I reached out to Kermit and former classmate, superintendent, and asked him what they did. And he sent me some pictures, he sent me some info. And to be honest, it's just a wonderful idea. And I met with Holly and I met with Pete to talk about it. And I've shared pictures. It basically is a wall of honor to honor our veterans. Holly has done some research. We have polled 250 people who we know are already current veterans. And then there would also be a form, because I know we're going to miss individuals, that a family could fill out, supply, data, their DD 214 with all the pertinent information crossed out, and would put their name on the board. Pete and I walked around today. We actually, when you walk in the doors coming into the gym, all the plaques are up high, real high. We're going to use that wall. We're going to take those plaques, put them into the in cave where the vending machines used to be, paint that wall, and put the wall of honor right there as we walk into the gym, that long hallway there. So most people will see that when they come in for deliberative basketball games. Probably gets the most traffic for parents, coming into the building. And that's kind of where we're at. I've reached out to a company in Ohio. They make the placards. Hopefully we can get green and white. I don't know about that, for our school colors to the star background, but yep, that's where we're at.
Questions, comments for Terry?
Sounds fantastic.
Love it.
Good, Joe.
Love the idea, but I guess we're not getting those old vending machines over there.
I'll look into it. Might put the plaque, we can move the plaque somewhere else. It just was open. So yeah. I know, but we do need to get them in there. I forgot. I'm not gonna lie. I did forget about that. Well, actually, Tasha now is a certified vending machine mechanic.
Whoa.
Oh, my goodness.
She went to Iowa for 2 days. They taught her how to repair vending machines. They gave her a little kit with a bunch of tools.
Nice.
And so we might be looking at,
Take my money.
so we might be looking at doing something again.
So faking it doesn't count?
No, we just need to move those plaques off that wall. That was just the most obvious place for me to put them. We can put them somewhere else.
Job her out to other schools to fix their vending machines.
We might. Why you say, what's wrong? What'd I do?
I haven't said anything yet. So you're saying when we walk into the gym doors, immediately to the right, that wall that has the pictures of the athletes,
Yep. That's a small, so further down.
further down, there's gonna be room down there?
Oh, yeah, it's a big wall. Yep, I'm going,
You know, I know the athletes, the pictures of the athletes are there, and then what else is down further?
nothing. It's bare. Other than up top where they have the old state plaques are up there.
Thank you. That's great that we're doing this.
Yep.
Question, what are we looking, where are we gonna fund it through?
Well, Todd has some facilities money. I gotta get prices, so I gotta figure it out.
Operating budget.
Todd thinks it's his money, but it's really my money. I let him have it, so I might take a couple $100 from him.
Well, that's, it's,
Yeah, we gotta look at it. I know we have some, seniors could donate money and stuff like that. You can.
Do you have a cost estimate yet? Didn't get.
I gotta, I haven't got that far yet. Cause I've actually wondered, was there gonna be a kickback? Was there gonna be, no, you never know. Somebody could say,
K-word.
huh?
It's a K-word.
Okay, no K.
Oh.
Oh, that,
yeah,
that works.
yeah,
Resistance.
there we go.
People get kickback and they think,
Whoa!
your uncle owns a plaque company.
No, so, we'll start getting some prices together. It's gonna take a little time. We gotta paint the wall. We gotta find the time, get it mounted, get the names bought and go from there.
Doing a lot of we talk.
Well, yeah, it is. Paint the wall.
If people,
We gotta get video of that.
I know that this has been publicized. It has.
Yeah.
At least I've seen it, so that means,
Yep.
and I'm not
Yep.
out and about anyways, my point being, for people at home that have a veteran or know of a veteran that want to get this, who would they contact?
Edgerton's got a little,
No, who would they contact now?
me.
Okay.
But there's also, we're planning to put a little, Wall of Fame icon on our website. Somebody can click it, they'll get the application and they can just send it in so that if somebody's,
Doesn't matter where, could be in Raymond or could,
my mother,
yep,
she
in
actually,
Hawaii.
she did it for me and she's not a member of the school. So she got my name on the.
I was surprised because I was looking for a picture of you and I didn't see the.
I didn't,
on the,
you
on the-
don't want to, you don't want to see that because
Harry Leather.
ugly glasses and it was not a pleasant picture of me in my dress blues.
Are you Army or?
Air Force, baby.
Oh, see, that would have made the picture worse.
All right, anything else? Thank you. All right, next up, we were scheduled to have energy efficient investment projects and the budget. But Mike we asked him to be here by what, 7:40?
7:40. Yep.
So hopefully
Is that him?
he's rolling.
He's like, I better get here early.
Roll on in. Hey.
All right, so I don't need to go further. Energy efficient projects. Good evening, Mike.
I
Todd?
hope we weren't keeping you long.
Not at
No, we
all.
just got to you, so you're good. We're running way ahead, so.
Perfect for the
I
announcement.
have Adam Janis with me, who's one of our engineers. I think all familiar faces, but Mike Davey with EEI, and at least one new patient. And we're before you, the group tonight to talk about the energy efficiency lease project. This project has been in front of the board many times. And I think the last action that we had was to come back before the board in March to talk about the potential project and rough order of magnitudes of cost. Back when we met in the winter, we had done some lease estimates. And right now we are going out to bid for various different financing options.
which our intent would be to present, if the board wants to continue to move forward, to present what those interest rates would be and the terms that the different banks would offer. So that would help you decide exactly which projects were selected. But as a high level, the projects that we're targeting are LED lights, both LED lights with controls here at the high school, a biomass boiler with propane backup, getting the district off of oil and removing the tanks, which we have received a $400,000 grant from the state of New Hampshire for. Walk-in cooling control. What?
A possible $400,000.
Possible.
A contingent $400,000, contingent, yes.
Contingent. Contingent
You
on.
worried about me, Todd?
I don't know.
Make note, it wasn't me.
I don't know if Governor Sununu is listening, but it's pending Governor's Council approval. Walk-in cooler controls, electrical transformers, a ground-mounted solar system here at the high school, which would produce about 141,000 in grants and in annual savings, and would make the district eligible for 702,000 in federal grants. I mentioned this to Todd. Solar depreciates a little bit over time. So the actual year one electrical savings will be 148,000. We're kind of saying, but the panel produce a little bit less over time. So this will actually be a much better production than what I'm showing in year one. But because this would be a multiple year project, we're using a more conservative number. We have lighting at the high school, building envelope at the high school, which is insulation. Middle school. Walk-in cooler controls and electrical transformers. These are not the final numbers. So when we come back to you in April, we'll have the final numbers and rebates, but this is a good order of magnitude of 1.3 million in potential projects, 230,000 in annual savings, and a 1.2 million in grants and rebates. Contingent.
Thank you.
So when we come back to this body in April, we're gonna have what the different banks are gonna give you for an interest rate. And then you say, okay, the payment would be this for a 15-year, this for an 18-year, this for a 20, and then let you know what the annual budget impact would be. Because let's say if the lease payment turned out to be 300,000, the net budget would be 68,000, if you reduced the annual energy savings after the project is completed. So, one action item is that, the potential grant, we need the superintendent to sign off on. Is that happened, or do we need the?
Take a motion on that here once we get done talking.
So to lock in this grant, we need the superintendent to sign, and then this will go to Governor's Council to be voted on. So that's the only real action item tonight. The other thing for consideration is we did not receive the biomass grant for the middle school at this date. So you have three options before you right now about the middle school. Option one is we just keep it in this 4.3 million range and we don't deal with the middle school at this time. Option two would be to put in high efficiency propane boilers for 750,000. That'll save 11,000 and you'll get a $20,000 rebate and about a 62-year simple payback. The next option would be to put in biomass with propane backup and apply for the grant in 2024 and then do that project in 2025, but not have it as part of this project because this $400,000 grant is not an option in fiscal year 2024. So we could apply, but the grant comes out every year. So we could apply for that grant, keep it separate from this. Apply for that grant in October of 24, win it. And if we win it in March of 25, then you could decide if you wanted to do it then. So we could reapply for that grant because it's an annual program. Or lastly, you could just say, we got to do the biomass. We got to do the project now, and we're just going to forgo that grant And so under that scenario, you still pay the full 1.2, you still get the 20,000 in energy savings. But the rebate would go down to 20,000 without that big grant. And so the payback would go from 40 to 59. One question that always gets asked, hey, these paybacks are really long, 50 years. Why do you do a payback on 50 years on something when, you know, in the stock market, you want to get a much quicker payback? The answer is because the boilers at the high school are beyond end of life. They're really in need of replacement, so they have to go. And then the boilers at the middle school, although they're not at what you'd call absolute end of life, which is over 20 years, they're about 20 years, 18 to 20 years, but they have been very problematic. So they've had lots of failures, lots of maintenance costs. So that's why the middle school boilers were considered. So I think what will happen though is I wouldn't want you to make this decision necessarily tonight on the middle school boilers until you see what the interest rates are. Because then if we get a killer interest rate, maybe it makes sense to just put in the propane boilers. If I have no idea where the interest rates will come in, and then that's going to make a big swing on what the annual payments would be. And if you get a really good interest rate, maybe it would push you toward, maybe you include it in this project and lock in a great interest rate right now. If the interest rates come back mediocre, then you might want to just push that for right now and deal with that and apply for the grant again in October.
You all set?
Yes.
Didn't want to, okay. Questions? Go ahead, Cindy.
So are there any situations where the solar panels have reached their end of life, and what do they do with them at that point? It's like, I'm nervous at the end of this, your panels wear out, then you have to get rid of them, and they're gonna cost as much as what you saved.
That's a question that gets brought up often, and no one can answer that with 100% certainty because this is a 30-year product, and what the regs and rules would be 30 years from now. I'd be lying if I guessed. I think it could be lots of things. But I will say that right now, they're not considered some type of hazardous waste. Right now, it would probably cost 15 to 20 grand to take those down and throw them in the liquid fill. So I don't think if you had to dispose of them tomorrow, right, it's not a giant cost.
All set.
Yeah, I had another question about, like, at the end of the very bottom, you say payback, that's 62 years. So that means like, say they last 20 to 30 years. We haven't really even touched the principal yet, right?
No, and that's why you don't make this decision based on payback because they aren't going to pay for you don't base it solely on payback because you wouldn't do this just as an economic decision. So like, right, if you had money, you wouldn't invest it in something with a 60-year payback. The reason you're doing this is because the boilers need to be replaced. And so you're trying to make the most efficient decision. It's like if you have a 20-year-old pickup truck and you buy a new truck, it's going to be more fuel efficient. But if you're going to try and figure out the payback on a $40,000 truck just on fuel efficiency, it's not there. It's not going to happen.
So this is just like the controls project we did here. We had that forever. The payback was like 100 something ridiculous. The controls were antiquated and didn't work, so they had to be changed regardless. It's not an energy project. At that point, it's just they need to be done. So because we're putting it in this format and show the payback.
Is it something like that? If you did this, would you kind of build into it that you'd pay it sooner or something? Or
so
what do you mean by?
like by the end of the time that by the end of the life of the new project, you're still going to pay what you owed at the beginning.
So
I don't see how that works.
The original idea when we put it in the budget, we had thought 20-year lease.
Yeah.
They're longer life than that, aren't they? The boilers?
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
Well, if it's 60 years, I don't think it's gonna last.
Again,
60
you can't, as Mike was saying, we have to put something in that's gonna heat the buildings. And I don't think there's a product out there, a means to heat this building
Hmm.
that is, the payback is 20 years. It doesn't exist by the nature of the beast.
So what do you do? Like in so many years, you have to pay this back before you get the next thing.
We're still paying it off in 20 years.
I think what you're looking at, what they're saying for the 60 years is that just with the energy efficient alone, it would take that long to pay it back. They're not saying that we're gonna pay it back in 61 years.
Oh.
They're just saying the energy.
Yeah, if we were
saved
relying on-
61 years to pay it back. And like they said, you know, to calculate a $40,000 truck, you'd probably have to have the truck for 100 years for it to pay itself back. So,
Yeah, and the other thing is for example, the LED, it takes about 8.5 years to pay that back. That's because to change LED for us, we're gonna save $50,000 or something a year, and it's gonna pay back in 8.5 years because we're getting such an efficiency, and that's why you're doing it.
Yeah, it's sort
It's
of,
not like the lights are dying, not working anymore. The lights are working, but we can replace the light we have and pay back in 8.5 years. Where the boiler is, you're doing it to keep warm, otherwise. Well, there are two things. One is to keep warm, but also we've got a tank in the ground for over 25 years that we don't want anymore. And, you know, especially at the two locations we're talking about. Here at the high school, we've got a well, I don't know, 600 feet away or something. And at the middle school, we've got a river not too far away either. So
yeah.
Well, like he was saying to maybe possibly forego the middle school, but we can't because of the tanks, right?
you know, that's a discussion we're going to have. And that's one of my concerns. But Joe, you had something or not?
Nope.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Steve.
it's more of and this is as much for folks at home, because I know we've talked about this a lot. It's a maintenance project that has to happen. We're just trying to find the most efficient way to do it. We got to do this either way because stuff is not, it's potentially going to fail. So it's not just we're going to make money or it's going to pay itself off in no time, but it has to be done. And this is a very efficient way to do it. And we can also save money on top of that from our current bills.
Yep.
Well, to go back to the truck thing, I mean, if your truck is breaking down,
Right.
you're not trying to make your money back, you're trying to get a new
You're trying-
truck.
yeah,
so
you
can
gotta
do
get
your
to work.
Day-to-day business, right? I mean, ideally it will, but that's not that's not the primary objective.
Yeah, we can't have no heat next January.
Yeah, I don't think that would go over too well.
Yeah.
Mike, when we get I know I'm not worried about the numbers yet on the lease, but my question is, if we do what the top two options without the alternative for the middle school, are we leasing? I don't know how to word it. Other than to say, we're gonna lease $4.3 million. Are we getting that 4.3? Are we leasing that 4.3 on the minute we start the lease? Or are we gonna stagger that amount because the project, we don't need all that money day one?
Usually, we will submit and this is different between a bond and a lease.
Yep.
The lease, they give you the money as you need it. You don't get the money all at once. And so actually, until we make final payment, the money doesn't really ever come to Raymond. We submit a bill,
I understand.
Raymond approves it,
Right.
it comes to us, and then you'll have your first, there's probably gonna be a few different ways to structure it. What would normally happen is your first payment would be 12 months from when you sign it. And so we get them, we'd say whatever the construction period is, let's say, I think in this case, it might be something that's finished with next summer. So if you sign the lease on May 1st, you'd say there'd be a 14-month construction period. But your first payment would be due on the way that I think the board intends to structure it would be due in 12 months from signing the lease. So if you sign the lease on May 1st of 24, your first payment of the 20 years would be May 1st of 25. And I think that's the intent of it, although that occasionally boards want the first payment due, in the next fiscal year.
In essence, for us, it would be July 1st of 25.
Sometimes that happens,
And the reason I'm asking is because I'm assuming, and I know it's not a bond, but I'm assuming we're paying interest on all that money, even though we're not using that money. And the difference between a bond is we got the bond
that's right.
and we're earning interest because, it's in the bank. Or can we structure it so that, if we need 500,000 the first few months, or is it you're paying, that lease is actually paying on the whole amount?
I've seen it done both ways. It depends on the bank. So I guess we could even bring the bank here. So
Yeah, I just trying to get a sense in my head
Yeah.
as to when are we gonna, that was my other question, when the first payment due?
Yeah,
And then how is it gonna be structured?
So let me just, there's, what we did is when I reached out to this company called Municipal Leasing Consultants out of Vermont, they do almost all of our lease projects, and they go to national banks throughout that are interested in municipal lease projects. So the money that you're gonna get is gonna be much lower than if you Google 20-year mortgage rates. It's gonna be much lower than typically. And that's because it's tax exempt. And so the banks do not pay taxes on the money that they loan to you. And so there's only a select group of banks. One of them is Bank of America. That they have a huge tax burden. And so they love these types of programs because it reduces their tax rates. If you're a local community bank, you don't have a big, credit union, and you don't have a huge profit, they might not be interested in this deal. They'd rather loan their money out at 7% than 5%, roughly. So you're going to, they go to a select group of banks. And right now, what we've told them is we would like proposals between 4.3 for 4.3 million. Now we can easily adjust it up if we put the middle school boilers in, for up to 20 years. The reason they write up to, there are some banks that give a much better rate at 15 years than at 20. And there's some banks that will only go 15 years. So we may find that, the communities in we're into the weeds here, but the smaller communities with low student populations sometimes have a hard time getting 20-year financing because the banks are afraid that if you're talking about, Hill, New Hampshire with 150 kids in their school, they might close the school and send the kids to Franklin or whatever. So they
Just got a divorce, so I don't think that's happening,
Yeah.
but.
Right. Yes, right. But because of your higher student population, a lot of banks are interested. That's what we've been told so far. They may not all want to do 20 years, so you may get some that want to say 18, some 17. And then what we'll bring you is the results of that and say, here's what your options are. And then the other two variables are, the other big variable is, do you want to do any type of down payment from either surplus or from an expendable trust to kind of reduce the overall borrowing amount? Because saying back to the truck analogy, if you want a lower monthly payment, if you put $5,000 down, you pay less. So in Belmont, they had a big surplus the year we did this project, and they actually prepaid $500,000 to reduce the annual amount. So those are just right now we're assuming no down payment, but that's something that if we bring good rates to the April board meeting, then you could decide, do you want to target an amount? And then you typically have 30 days to close. If we're not comfortable with the rates and that you get in April, the other option would be to select a different they're essentially a mortgage broker. Municipal leasing is to select a different one or to look into other funding mechanisms. But 90% of the time, this company, Municipal Leasing, gets good rates and gets the deal done. So they just did our Timberlane project and they're extremely happy with the rates.
Okay. Joe? Did something, I think.
With like the LED lights, usually they're a lot brighter because you can see the one that we have in here.
Yeah.
Compared to the other lights that we have 2 or 4 in that, in the one. I know some of this, like this room has 3 switches on it. Can we have dimmers put on those?
They'll all have different.
They all have dimmers. Oh, excellent.
All classrooms and learning spaces, if it's like the boiler room, we don't bother, but any regularly occupied.
Short end all the time, done.
That's right.
Steve and then Tony?
No dimmers. No dimmers for Todd. We keep saying lease. Does that imply that we somehow lose ownership at the end? Is it a lease to own? Okay, I just clarify. I think we kind of talked around it a few times, but.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tony.
And so I have a question here that's, I'm not gonna be a very popular one. What does this whole thing look like without the solar package? Like, how contingent is this whole plan on the solar panels?
It's not contingent on the solar.
Cause I'm not thrilled about the whole solar
So
thing.
if you look, if you look at the simple paybacks, that's one of the reasons we show that. Is the simple payback of the solar is 11 years under this scenario. The payback of the overall project here is 13 years. So if you're looking at it from a budget impact, which is your lease payment minus your energy savings equals your budget impact. If you remove the solar, it will obviously lower your borrowing costs, but it'll actually increase to some extent your budget impact, because anything with a payback better than 13.29 is helping the overall package. Anything that's higher makes it a little worse. If you are inclined, we could show you the options without the solar. If you're inclined to not see the solar and see what that would look like at the April meeting. But that being said, what Todd and I were talking about is there's been so many options floating around between the different elementary schools, the propane versus biomass, that I started to lose track of what this project, what was it. So it doesn't hurt my feelings at all if you get rid of solar. It'll make your borrowing amount lower, but it'll also make your budget impact slightly worse because you're gonna lose that savings.
I mean, that's a board decision. They want to look into that, but just a question I had, because I mean, I'm not too thrilled about that whole part of the project, but just a question I had. I don't know how everyone else feels.
Well, I thought that you originally said that it was the solar went with it, like they came together.
Well, what I meant by that is the solar is helping the overall payback.
It's all a price reduction package.
And so that helps that. And what I also said is because everything else that we're doing with lighting, when we were looking at dehumidification, all that played into the whole energy use and energy profile. And if you did the solar separately first, it would mess this up. So taking the solar out doesn't derail the project. It makes it a little bit more expensive on an annual budget standpoint. So I'm happy to show the numbers with and without solar. That being said, it'll be estimates because the banks are bidding on 4.3. So if we take it out, I'm just gonna take that interest rate and do a rough.
Yeah, I understand it changes a lot of things.
Yeah, because, and my only thing is there may be banks that are looking at this at 4.3, and then when we go to 2.2, is it 2 million only, they may not offer you that same rate. They may say, oh, but I don't know that. If that's something the board would want me to ask, I could ask the banks now so that they're not,
Good, Joe.
I mean, I like seeing the solar in there. One, the payback, just for the panels at 11 years, you're making that, I mean, you basically can pay for the next project that you might need after 30 years with the savings that you're gonna have after that 12th year forward. Or whatever might be, technology might be there in 30 years. I mean, like you said, who knows? I mean, we just don't know what regulations, I mean. Certain things that were great back when, and 30 years later, they say, well, you can't do that now, so,
Asbestos is one of those.
yeah. Which my parents have on the side of the house.
That's right.
I mean, but I think the solar, I mean, I haven't seen too much about, you know, anything being affected underneath the solar panels, except for maybe heat and stuff like that.
Runoff, water runoff and stormwater impervious surface issues.
But.
Well, the other thing is.
That's the planning board alternate talking now. So.
I know it. Yeah.
But again, I mean, you put it on your roof, it's gonna run off your roof and into whatever you have on your
It's
roof.
already an impervious surface.
Yeah, I mean,
I learned all about that.
That would be part of the construction. I assume they'd have to deal with all that as they put it in, right?
I
Make
don't
sure
know if
that it
they're
was.
required to follow local zoning ordinances from the school property.
Well, I mean, we could make it required.
Yes, you can.
It may not be by
What
them,
about
but
the
we can.
fact that we've had, like, how much sun have we had? Like, how much does the solar work through major thick clouds?
We base it on an average weather condition. So if you have a brighter.
Has this year been worse than normal, or is it just me? I mean, I drive to school every day. I'm like, when are we gonna see clear
So it's
skies?
Probably been better because of snow cover, right? There's been no snow cover on Cyril. So from that perspective, I'd say it's easier to.
And then, yeah, what if you have a winter where you've got, 4 or 5 feet of snow?
We base it on average. So you're gonna have some years where you're gonna beat this a little bit. You're gonna have some years where you're worse, but it's gonna.
And that's the case, Mike, with all these, right?
Right.
Everything's based off of averages,
Yes,
except for we know what our usage is
right.
past.
Yes.
Then you can judge, we're gonna save, we used to spend 500 in electricity. Now we're gonna spend 360.
That's right.
And, but that's based off of averages.
That's right.
So, I mean, for me, I would like to see it go forward with solar. I know it's a bigger cost item, but again, it's the biggest cost savings too. And as Joe said, after 12 years, it's making money for us, helping us pay off the last 8, whatever number of years. And then you don't have to pay those bills going forward. And just to recap, just from my memory, and I think you had said with the solar panels you were gonna put up, as opposed to 100% of our need currently, I think you had said it was gonna be 70. And the reason we're gonna be 10% less, and the 70 is because of LED. Okay, I just wanted to remember. Yep, right. So it's not like we're building more than we need. It's less than we need by about 10% after LED would become effective.
There will be some days when you're sending back to the grid, but you're looking at the annual use. total.
Especially during the summer.
During the summer.
Because we're a quiet place, relatively speaking,
Yes.
during those months. Steve?
So 2 quick things on the overage, because New Hampshire is set up this way. I looked at it I assume we get to bank the power dollars.
That's factored in.
Okay. On the payback years, I assume that's for instance, at the high school, the 14.3 is just an average of those numbers. I will say the difference is only about 2 years without the solar. It's like a 14-year payback with it and 15.8, almost 16 years without it. But I think I'm sort of on the same boat as John and Joe that it's a big price, but that after 12th year, it's free and clear energy. So, I mean,
I'm not a solar expert, but at that point, that's when you start to see the degradation starts to come into play. I would say, in my opinion.
I think Mike used the lower number day one
yeah,
to compensate for that.
For the entire lifespan of the
Correct.
thing.
So what, I think, not to recap, first year you said it was 148, but you're using 141, in essence, the average again, over 20 years?
So after 20 years, that'll still be making 140,000.
Yeah, I don't want to, I can send you the chart to give you those exact numbers, but what I factored in the degradation in that middle period. So I can give you the 25-year life. I don't want to speak to the exact.
what is the average percentage of power loss? I think that's the question, right? If we say we're getting 100% day one,
Yeah, it's not a high, it's like 1% or something. I can look that.
It goes down to 1%.
no, it only
No.
goes down by
I was
1.
gonna say,
It goes down to 90.
Then I'm out.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'd be out with that.
And nobody would be doing this, yeah.
I should know the answer to that, but it's like a fraction.
Here,
Yeah, it's not a huge percent. At the April meeting, I'll bring that because I don't know. I don't want to.
yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, because that's.
What's the
that's a good question.
oldest solar situation that we have going
Their
right
solar
now
is
to compare to
70s, yeah.
anything?
I mean,
70s?
yeah. So what happened is, I don't get into politics, but like
That'd be 50.
during the
Uh-oh.
the Iran situation.
Oil embargo.
Yeah.
The Carter era.
The Carter era. They put solar-
WBNO, the first solar powered radio station in Bryan, Ohio.
Okay, there you go.
What's it doing now?
Yeah.
Both.
Solar powered?
Seventies, they got rid of it.
Yeah. Locally, I put in the Comfort Inn system 12 years ago. So if you're in Concord, so if you're driving up in Concord, if you look at that hotel, you can see I put that system in and that's still generating well. We did Portsmouth High School 10 years ago. It's still generating well. If you'd like, I could get the Portsmouth High School data, which is 10 years old, and bring that just to show you how it's doing year over year.
Yeah, that would be great.
That'd be good.
I'll take whatever you want to bring.
Is that on a roof or is that on land?
Portsmouth High Schools is on the roof, but we also did the water department in Madbury, which is ground mounted. I have a better relationship with the schools. I don't deal with Madbury that much, but I could try and get that too.
It'd be good to see what their degradation over 10 years was.
Yeah, I can definitely bring that up.
Good job.
I mean, solar panels now compared to the 70s is technology is so much better. And even back in the 70s when they had solar cars that somebody bought out and then got rid of, amazingly enough, they still, if you can find one, they still run.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, but I can bring some 10-year-old data and from New Hampshire, and I can maybe some from Vermont.
Anything else on the solar part? So it sounds like if we'll get more information from you, Mike, and then we'll be able to make a decision on that.
Yes, and the only thing you need to decide today is to have.
Well, I'm gonna get to that. Yeah, we haven't even, we still gotta deal with the middle school.
Okay.
Just to me, I think it would be better if we make a decision tonight so that you know what direction we want to go in. So I'm just looking at it as, we're asking a lot of different things from you.
Yeah.
And let's take one less thing to,
Yes.
I mean, that, it just, I think, the other part is we also then have to figure out how we're gonna pay for it. That's another story. For me, I would like to see us do something at the middle school. As Todd has told us before, the middle school, although it's 18 or so years old, it doesn't always want to run, it doesn't always want to be cooperative, I guess. And the other part is we got an oil tank there in the ground. And at some point, we're gonna have to replace it. And it's one of those things, you don't want to have it happen when you don't want it to happen, because then it's an emergency situation. So for me, I would like to solve that. Also, obviously, if it's going to cost us $10 billion, then it's a different conversation. I use that number just so that everybody knows I'm not.
But to your point, it goes from a removal to remediation, and that's a whole different
correct
issue that you don't want to get into.
And if we're going to remove the tank, we might as well take care of the boiler at the same time. In my mind. Now, whether we do, I would like to see biomass, but if the board says, yeah, I'll do it at LP, but I'm fine with that too. But I think biomass is the right way to go. I think from a renewable energy, the solar is good and the biomass is good too, where the oil and the LP is not. We need to do something in my mind there, and it's sooner than later, but go ahead.
I'll
Steve,
just
then
say,
Tony.
because I was thinking initially, maybe we just go with the LP, but if you look at just looking at a pure numbers situation, the biomass with the backup, and I'm going to say this as an only, so bear with me, it's $500,000 more, but there's a potential rebate on the back end of the biomass, which makes it not that much more total. It's 1.2 to do the biomass, 750 to do the LP. But if we can actually acquire that secondary grant at 400, it makes it only 800,000, which is just 50 more. And we have potential savings. It's actually almost twice the annual savings of just LP.
You have to wait a year.
What's that?
You gotta wait a year to get.
We had a year.
From now, yeah.
But we could wait a year to do the project too. We don't have to do it
Is that a
today.
fair assumption, Mike, that if we wanted to do biomass at the middle school or to resolve that issue, could we wait a year on doing that?
Yes.
Sorry, that was my
You could
assumption.
say it's gonna be either biomass or LP, depending on what happens with the grant that we don't know whether we're getting or not.
Right, and you'd also get, depending on when you did it, you'd also get a year's runtime of, or maybe, depending on when you did it, but you may have some knowledge about
Here,
running, how it works.
if we were to do it, yeah.
Right.
Okay, I've got Tony, Joe, and then Eric. We'll go down the line.
I guess my only question would be with the biomass chips and all that. Do you foresee, the demand increase, cost or any kind of issues there?
Of the fuel costs, wood is the most stable, very stable. We have not seen giant price. Oil and propane swing all over the place. Wood is pretty steady.
And this came up in the fall about, whoa, what happens if we can't get wood chips? What does it take to convert to pellets?
And you'd have to run through the chips that are in your silo, and then it would be a day to convert the system to a pellet system.
And how much would that cost ballpark?
About $1,200.
Thank you. It came up and I just wanted to have that answer. Thank you.
Running up chairs.
Don't tell Todd. Joe?
I believe one of the biomass places in Hampshire, did they just shut down? I'm guessing it wasn't the one that we would use.
No, we're teamed up with Froling is who we're working with. There was a company, there's two pellet suppliers and one Sandry and I forget, and something Green Heat, and one just bought the other. So there's only when I say supplier, I'm talking about the guys who will take the pellets and blow it into the silo. And so there was two, and that one bought the other, and so now there's one. I don't know if that's but the pellets themselves either come from Maine, Canada, or Jaffrey, New Hampshire is where most of ours come from. I don't think the big manufacturer in Jaffrey. The wood chips come from Keene. The wood chips come from Keene. So it's a smaller market, the wood market, but it's a pretty there's a lot of users of wood. Like if some, between I'd say most of the big high schools that aren't on the natural gas pipeline are on wood heat. Merrimack Valley, Pembroke Academy, John Stark High School, Hanover High School. So there's the likelihood of just, no one can get wood heat is not, a lot of hospitals up north, like Berlin is on wood heat. Like there's a lot of wood using facilities that they're not.
Good, Joe. You're in line.
I'm actually more for, let's wait. I mean, I agree with John. We need to do something with the middle school. My only thing is if we sit there and say, well, we'll do it now, we'll ask for the loan later. Somebody comes back and says, well, you already paid for it. What do you need the loan for? I mean, what
The
do you need
grant.
a rebate?
I mean, the grant.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they've never done that before.
Yeah, no, I agree. If we can wait a year or whatever it means to do that, then
I mean, even if it was, I hate to keep going, but even if it was two.
I don't know how the lease
Like one.
company would feel about all this, but that's another question.
I think if you were gonna wait a year, you just do a separate lease for that project and keep it out of
Okay.
this. That would be my.
I'm good with what the numbers, what things look like now. And then we'll wait that year just to see. Keep our fingers crossed. Knock on wood.
My question doesn't have as much impact, but my fear is that these grants are becoming, we talk, more competitive, knowing that our boilers are only 20-year-old. We going against schools that are 30, 35, 40-year-old boilers. Does that put them in front of us?
Yeah, ours here at the high school is
40.
40 years old.
So we move to the front of the food chain.
Yeah.
I see what you're
I
saying.
assume,
It's a hard question to answer because it's like, it's yes on age of boiler, but then it's who takes the initiative to apply. And so that's.
I know, I wanted to,
no, yeah, you're absolutely right.
like building aid.
Right.
I mean,
Like building, you're not getting it.
Mike's been trying this for 6 years.
I know.
Actually, I just came from Chichester School Board and they're like, how long do you stick with projects if they don't fit? I'm like, well, I've been with Raymond since 2016.
All right, so what do we want to do at the middle school? I've heard, do we want to try to do it soon within the whole project? Or do everything but the boiler at the middle school? And then have that discussion in about 6 months, right?
I'd almost go with that. Wait 6 months for the middle school.
I'm good with that.
Tony?
Sure. I can't keep track of this thing anymore.
Well, what we're trying to figure out is what you have in front of you is the top part, right? It's 4.3 million right now. And that's what we'd be proposing to do as it stands now if we went with solar.
And 2 boilers?
One boiler.
One boiler.
What we're talking about is with the middle school, because we definitely know we don't have any grants for the middle school. I can say that, right?
That's true.
Mhm.
That's affirmative.
2 boilers, they're just both at the high school, one with.
Well, when I say that, I mean,
Yeah.
project.
Boiler project.
And then the middle school, we would have a conversation, what we're gonna do with the boiler situation. And again, to me, almost as important, more important is that oil tank that we've got there. It's waiting to happen. So it sounds like that's what we wanna do. Is there anything else that you need from us, Mike, or we should be talking about that we missed?
I think I'm good. I am, the direction was I'm gonna tell you I lost track for a second. You want the option without solar, correct? You want.
I mean,
I'd like to see it. I'll see what-
this is up to them.
Well-
No, I can't.
For me, if it's that discussion, I would want solar on there. I don't. So what is it? Do we wanna, why don't we get a motion? And then that way we can,
Can I ask
Everybody
one more
clears.
question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry. So, I guess this is more for you, Todd. On the tank, right, for the middle school, do we have any sense, is a year gonna make a difference at this point?
It's 26 years old, their life expectancy is 25, 30. So. But we do testing, we do things, we have monitoring.
Yeah.
Not expecting catastrophic over. I wouldn't be presenting like this for us.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking, we're just saying, hey, let's push it out a year, and I don't want it to be like in 4 months the thing cracks, you know?
well,
That's,
Like that's the case. I don't
okay.
have any reason to believe it's gonna catastrophically fail.
it's not, like you say, it's not an immediate issue. The issue is, we know we need to replace it
Yeah.
within a few years.
But we
No matter
have
when we
time
do
to
it.
make that decision. Yeah, I just didn't want to put it off and then have to be like, oh, no, it's gotta go. So,
That goes in the back of the truck. Let's go.
okay, sorry, thank you.
All right, so what we're gonna do is, if we could get a motion on whether we're gonna the proposal will include solar or not.
I'll make a motion that we go with the energy efficient investment project as presented.
Get a second?
I'll second.
Right. For me, I would think we would have, and that's why I said just make the motion be solar. So that way, individual board members make a decision on that versus the whole project.
Oh, I'm sorry, sorry.
And is that fair?
Yeah, like it,
Because then if Tony doesn't want solar, what's he do? He wants the project. I don't want to speak for him. So that's where I was.
that's fair enough.
No, good distinction.
I'll make a motion.
Can you retract?
I'll retract my motion.
You okay?
I'll retract, yeah.
I'll make a motion to propose that we have solar for our energy efficient project.
All right. Get a second?
Okay.
And any further discussion? I think everybody knows where we are, but anybody? All right. All those in favor
Aye.
and opposed? Motion passes 3-2. All right, so you're all
Do
set.
not need that estimate then.
Somebody has something?
Well, it'd still be good to.
You all set, Todd?
I gotta do the,
Yeah, but from Mike's perspective, I just want to make sure you're all set with what you, because you were, we talked a lot of Ouija board you've got.
Hopefully we'll be back in April with a bunch of, finance.
So we did the motion to include the solar, but we didn't actually do the motion to do the rest of the project.
My recommendation on that would be wait.
Until the
you see
6th.
interest rates.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, this was.
But I just wanted, before they all took off.
This is whether or not he wants to spend time coming up with an estimate, removing the solar from the project essentially.
Okay.
You all set?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure we weren't letting them go.
Thanks, Mike. Go ahead.
I am asking the board to authorize superintendent to sign the contingency grant paperwork. The grant will be awarded on or around May 10th of 2024.
So moved. Get a second?
I'll second.
All right. Discussion?
So this is to get the
400,000.
energy.
The $400,000 grant.
We've got to,
This
we've got to
project.
provide information that we want it still, in essence.
Yep.
And the executive council has to make a decision based off of, if they get nothing from us, then they know that we don't want it. If we, then they know we want it, and hopefully the 5 of them say yes.
Yes.
All right. So we got a motion to ask for the grant, basically. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously. Right, I was gonna have a conversation about how we fund this at this point, but I think in the budget part, we'll talk a little bit about it coming up. All right, next up is the 24-25 budget. And the reason I asked to have this on is, one, is this was the budget committee's budget. We recommended it, and the conversation at the time was, if we want to make adjustments, we can. Just wait until after the vote. We didn't have to make decisions at that point. So I wanted the ability to have this conversation now. Also knowing that if we go ahead, which is sounding like we're gonna potentially go ahead with the EEI project, is how do we conceptually want to fund the EEI project? Because right now, nothing's in the budget for it. So there's a lot encompassing there. Go ahead, Tony.
So as part of that whole, RSA lease, all that stuff, I believe that one of the options is that you can make the payments with capital reserve funds now.
I believe, well,
That's what I read anyway. I could have read it wrong.
I think we can use capital improvement to offset capital improvement, a project. However, I don't think a policy states it basically is it's not a year in and year out. It's not supposed to be used for that manner. Does that make sense?
I'm going by the RSA that says you can do this whole lease deal.
So the RSA says we can pay the whole thing over 20 years with
It
capital
says that
improvement.
it says you can make those payments with capital improvement.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. That's fine. But I'm just saying what our policy says. The intent is not to be paying a payment, like a bond payment or a lease payment, year in and year out with capital improvement. We can waive that if we so desire. I'm just bringing it up. Go ahead. Anything else? Tony? Nope. Okay. So what's the board? Does anybody want to? Go ahead.
We'll know more come the April 6th or whatever. My thing, because it was basically the way the project was presented to us at first is that, yes, that initial payment would be, a lump sum of $300,000, I think. That we could possibly pay a little bit of that with whatever, if we have money left over from this budget, and use some CIP money. Or we could just use CIP, it's up to the board. But going forward, in my mind, I think it was around $33,000 for the 20 years approximately that we would have to have in our budget for that, between the energy savings that we'd have and what the project's worth. In my mind, I would just put that, it should be in the budget because it's a budgetary item in my mind, because we're saving money, we're also getting equipment that we've just bought.
So it's
Before you,
questions
just to clarify for people at home. The first payment's gonna be 330 because we haven't seen any cost savings. What Joe is talking about is down a year, we're gonna be, I think, like you said, it was about 30,000 that we would have to make a payment. The difference being 300,000 in saving, 330 payment. We'd have to pay the 30 bulb or 317, whatever it was. Correct?
Right, which is gonna look different because we don't have the middle school on there for the tank yet, so.
Go ahead.
That was essentially gonna be my distinction. We have there's two things. We gotta figure out the initial payment and then the year two on payment.
Correct. One thing I'd like to talk about is the middle school foreign language teacher, putting that position on hold so we don't post it. Because I'm concerned, I don't want to put 300 and something thousand of capital reserve. Now, this is the funny part. You'll talk to two different people in town and some people say we're not putting enough in capital reserve and you shouldn't be spending. And the other person will say the exact opposite. So it's hard to appease people, but over time, the one thing since we've been adding more is more and more people are appreciative that we're putting more into capital reserve and keeping it there for the long-term purposes that we're doing.
My only concern is we're already behind. Our CRF is already.
Oh, yeah, we're $4 million behind.
But we're limited as to how much we can even keep, right? We can't.
We can, no, the capital reserve fund is the one where we're adding almost $500,000 in the first Article 2, and then up to 400,000 of the Article 3. 100 goes into the abilities, the one that's really for special education costs, and it's not called that. And then the up to 300, the remainder would go into maintenance. It's what's the 2.5% thing called? And I always get it wrong, so.
Unassigned fund balance retained.
And that's the one that's about $450,000 ballpark that hasn't changed since a year ago when it went down by a couple $1,000 because the statutorily had to go down. So there are two things that are out there that we have savings account, for lack of a better way. Go ahead, Joe. But anyways, just to finish up sorry.
Forget it.
Hold on. I just wanted to bring it up because the reason I ask about the foreign language is because I think it's important that we use some operating budget money to do this because I don't want to spend 300 and something $1,000 of our capital reserve funds because that basically wipes out whatever we do this year other than 600,000. So that's where I'm at. I know where I stand, but anyways, go ahead, Joe.
I would be, there's a couple of reasons I'm gonna be against cutting the teacher.
But
One,
before I didn't say cutting. I said put a pause on it so that if we figure out that depending on how much money we need, depending on how much we want to put in for capital reserve, that gives us the ability to about $80-something thousand, I think. And of course, it's a duplicate of what all these services that we're providing. But we already provide those services here at the high school, but go ahead, Joe.
I know we provide those services at the high school. But, as even when we were having the high school, presentation for the kids coming from 8th grade, a lot of schools are now, asking for 3 years of foreign language, not just 2. And where we do have, if you have it in 8th grade, and it's only for a select few kids who are doing really well in their English classes, they have the opportunity to get that credit, and they also have, they can also expand to have 3 years of language by their sophomore year. And that also gives them more time to explore what other classes they might like than having to take another class their junior year. Again, this is offered in just about every middle school now, quite a few middle schools. I won't say just about every, but quite a few middle schools now, where 8th grades Spanish and or French, or both. Some teachers do both. In their middle school. I don't know if we could put a pause. I mean, what do you mean by pause? Because I don't think we could pause something for a year and
I
then sit
didn't
there.
say it was for a year. I was saying until we find out what it's gonna cost us in April.
I don't think
We wouldn't post it. I don't know if it's been posted, but I would not have it posted until then. Because that's the only position that doesn't exist in the district today that we have in our budget. Teaching position. I think it's any position because we've already got the BCBA already posted and we've potentially hiring more.
if it's a pause till, like it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks away, I'm good with that. I don't think we were gonna post it right away anyhow. But yeah, I'm okay with waiting until April 6th. I'm not gonna agree with it.
Yeah, but again, Joe, I think it's important to understand that if you want 4 years of Spanish or French, you can do that in this district. And the number of students that are taking those high-level Spanish courses and French courses is minimal. And that has been proven over years. So it's not like, those students that take it in 8th grade the numbers dwindle down to count them on your hand that are taking Spanish for the 5th year. I understand that if you take it in your first 8th grade, then you can be in theory done with 3 years your sophomore year. That's nice. But for me, with a district that struggles to afford what we do, I don't know that we need to duplicate efforts, but
But with like Cody here, I think he's taken bioscience in SST. And he started that in his junior year. If he has his 3 years of foreign language now, and that's something he obviously wants to do, he doesn't have to worry about having that foreign language and taking SST at the same time and having those classes line up. So that frees up an option for that student, especially if they're going to SST.
Good.
I will say that I've heard from experience from other students that there have been a couple cases where Spanish 4 is not always run every year. Same with Spanish 3, or they're run within the same class. And so VLAX tends to be, which is the online course, tends to be pushed more. So I believe in what Joe is trying to say.
Right. No, I understand what goes on, but the problem is the reason it's not run, if it hasn't run, is because we haven't had enough students do it.
But I,
To me, that's proving the point that we don't have enough students really wanting to do that. But I've spoken enough. I'm not gonna beat it anymore.
I think if it could be offered more consistently in 8th grade, then you could see more of an uprise in language being taken, because once you do get to junior year, SST is put on the table, and that is hard to correlate your classes with.
Yeah, I don't know the last time 4 or 3 or 4 have not run, or 4 and 4. I don't know that 5 has ever run.
Yeah, I'm not.
So anyways, anybody else? Okay. Anybody else want to do anything else with the budget? Any questions? Because again, we were dealt a budget that's not what we asked for, and that's why I think it's important to have the conversation. Right. So,
Yeah.
Next up
Okay.
is the 2024-25 MS 22 signing.
Yes, so I've received a lot of questions over this past week in regards to
Pass that down to John.
if this has to be changed or can we still sign it if you guys make changes in the 24-25 school year. This report right now is just the report of appropriations as they were voted on. So basically I go through the budget. So when I submit the budget before it goes to the taxpayers and stuff like that, like the ballot, I basically have to break it down by, you guys know my reports at the end of the year. It's regular ed, special ed, co-curricular and stuff like that. Now, when it's voted on as appropriated, as the voters approved it on Tuesday, now I have to take those figures and break them down by school level. So elementary, middle school and high school. So that's all that this is. So this is basically just saying that this is what the voters voted on. And actually, because Dana was already here, I already had her sign it, so we didn't have to make that special trip.
That's next. Oh, yes.
I'm good.
I was gonna say something.
Fidget, no.
Are there any questions about MS 22?
No, I'm
You
good.
guys good?
So sum it up with what we voted on Tuesday.
Yeah. So, and then say, for instance, if we were at deliberative and somebody did make a change at deliberative, that's one of the questions when I'm changing this report. They want to know, were there changes at deliberative? And I have to say yes or no. And then it says, was it financial? And I have to say yes or no. And then it will prompt me to continue doing those changes. But because we had no changes, it's very simple and nice.
Which way is this going?
Do we normally have a motion to do this? I think we
Sure. You
Be
can,
safe to do it.
you can to be safe, yes.
Why don't we get a motion that for the board approval to sign the MS 22?
I'll make a motion that we, the board sign the 24-25 at 22.
I defer it so hard when she's not here, when she doesn't do this.
That's all good. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. I think it's easier and it just saves us. So if we make a mistake, we took action. All right. Next up. Monthly financial update, Marjorie.
Moving right along now, isn't it?
Okay. 30. The glare is like perfectly in my way.
You're top, Terry. Okay,
What is this
so.
again? Hold up.
Terry, I'll go over it tomorrow.
Okay. Yes, sign.
The financials through February 29th, 2024. Okay, so the first page that you have is your revenue sheet. I am expecting to receive a lot more money as we go on. But still we're, a special education aid, we've gone over that. There's almost $500,000 there.
Before you go on, just to clarify in my mind, that money has to be spent on special education or returned, that excess, correct? Close to the 494 number, right? Because I think the attorneys had said that we have to spend it on special education or it gets returned. But right now,
But technically, we could be spending it on education this year because there's special education because.
that's what I mean, is we've got how many millions in special education costs?
Correct.
Far exceeds. I just wanted to put that out there.
Right, so it doesn't have to be you can just apply it towards any.
Correct, yeah, it doesn't,
Like,
yeah, we,
Our spending.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there's plenty to spend it on.
Oh, yeah, that's why I said we get over millions of dollars.
Yep, exactly.
So it's not like we're lacking places.
So if we needed to transfer to cover those, we could.
Thank you.
Net school care refunds, those are gonna remain where they are. After school program fees, those are still coming in. However, I think we're gonna see a shortfall on that line. Before school program, again, there's a shortfall on that line. I think we're gonna come close to it, maybe a little short. Tuitions are slowly coming in. That's typically for preschool. So we collect those monthly. Impact fees. Again, that is what it is. We received the check from the town. Indirect costs, I think we'll be close to that at the end of the year. And then vocational charter school and other revenues. Those are, vocational and charter school will not change, but other revenues we're still, collecting as they come in.
Questions?
Did we ever get any more information about how the impact fees are calculated?
I don't think.
It just,
That's a whole,
with all the construction homes in town, it seems like that's a low number.
Well,
a great place to put on that, the capital improvement committee.
Is that
Actually, it's actually the planning board responsibility for that. capital improvement plan has no bearing on.
Yeah, I'm just curious about how they come to that number.
This was a year ago impact fee, right?
Oh, true. It's not this
And
year.
it's not this year's building, so. But to find out how they calculate and, I think Joe brought it up at maybe the last meeting. He wanted to have a conversation about how do we find out if the impact fees really are what they should be today, right? Don't want to speak for you, Joe, but I remember that basically, right? And I think you had said it, we should take the bull by the horns, putting words, not your words, but that's the gist of it. So I think.
That's sort of why where the question came. I remember us talking about it.
Mhm.
And I just sort of like,
So during our meeting at the last meeting, I did get an email from somebody in town and they had said that when they calculate it, it's based on square footage of residential units. And another fee is off-site exactions. And that we currently do not assess off-site exactions. They are easier to justify. I don't know if that helps you out with anything.
Well, I think going back to Joe's question is have they adjusted the price or the fee since it was first established, right?
Right.
I think a good question to starting point.
based on square footage, is it just brand new construction and like?
Yeah, I don't think it's like if you're renovating your house.
Yeah, no.
Charge you for it. It's like-
Right, I'm just, yeah. So I mean, it's good to know that it's based on a square footage, but like what is the rate per square foot that we're charging to these new developers?
I could probably look into that and get that information for you.
As the alternate to the planning board.
I don't have enough to do.
Tony, you sound a little tired.
Honey, we're just gonna get you a hat rack to carry around with you so you can just swap in
It has
and
to be
out.
digital, so I can just switch it.
Be like a Snapchat filter.
Yeah, like the board at a hockey game. Just scroll it.
There you go.
Okay, sorry, thank
All
you.
set, Steve?
Yes.
Then behind that, you have your summary of general fund expenditures by object codes. And the first one is without further encumbrances. So if we continued to stay on a freeze and we weren't planning on purchasing anything, you would have about $700,000 left.
Before you go on,
Yes.
in my mind, because we're not doing that, I don't think we need to have these presented.
Okay.
That's me. I don't know about the rest of the board, and I'm assuming it's more work for you.
Yeah, but
Okay.
fine.
Well, no, what I mean is, it's not helping us in the sense that, from my perspective,
Right.
we're not in a freeze. We should be looking at what we're gonna actually be spending, and the second page is more reflective of where we are in that it's, right? I mean, it's a few $100,000 difference. I mean,
Yep.
if we're gonna make decisions, let's make the decisions off of,
Exactly.
that's where I'm at.
I
The
agree.
rest of the board all right with that?
Factual data, that's what I like.
Yep.
Data-driven decision making.
Okay, so then your next one is with further encumbrances. So if we were gonna continue spending and Carrie and I monitoring the spending, we're looking at $428,000 left in the budget. And going back to the previous discussion in regards to the EEI project. So I just want to warn you guys, so if it did come out of the general fund, right? Or you guys were talking 24, 25? Never mind, skipping.
Well,
Any
the-
questions?
That is one, there's another rabbit hole we're gonna go down, and another surplus this year. I was gonna have a conversation, depending on how that number looks going forward, just like we did this past year, the end of 22-23 school year, we took the $19,000 for the iReady because we were concerned about going forward. Depending on what that number looks like, I would like to have it at least 400,000 so we can put the 400 in CIP.
Right.
But if it gets up in hundreds of thousands more, then for me, I would have a conversation about what can we do going forward, maybe. But anyways.
Well, that's
So,
what I was gonna say. If you guys were gonna take it out of here, out of this year's budget, then you wouldn't have that money to fund your CIP. That's all I was gonna say.
Is that including the money we got for the special ed?
The Article 3, yes, the Article 4, excuse me, which is the last one we had, which was up to $400,000. The first,
Sorry, not that part. We got an extra amount of money earmarked for special ed. Does that 400,000, is that only there because we got the extra money for special ed? I know I hate calling it extra, but I can't think of a better way to say it.
Talking about the special education aid on the revenue side?
Correct.
No, this is just expenditures.
Okay. So this, okay.
However, what we were saying earlier is that I wouldn't physically do it because when I did it last year, the auditors were questioning me about why I was moving,
Right.
making those transfers. So it's kind of one of those things where I'd have to keep track of it in my, well, when I went to go do my DOE 25 report, I didn't report it because we had transferred it. And then they're like, you didn't report this and we know you got it. So it had like a trickle down effect. But yeah, so I wouldn't physically do it, but it's there.
So theoretically, there's more that we could use that for than the 400, and we'd still have money to fund the CRF.
you all set, Steve?
Yes,
Go ahead.
vaguely, but yes.
Okay, Joe.
So, because I think, believe they were saying I had to step out for a second.
I didn't notice, I'm sorry. I really didn't.
I
I
I'm
did.
sorry.
So, no,
Yeah.
Well, we haven't set to $494,000 over in what we received for special education. If we put that in our student transportation for special education.
Right.
That line would go down dramatically, which we would now have instead of looking at the wrong one here. $428,000, we would have, we'll just say $728,000.
Yep.
828,000.
That's sort of why I was the same thing. Yeah.
And that's one of the things I was, like John was saying, I was kind of looking at if we talked to, the EEI and stuff like that, if we have money that we can use this year towards it, and it might bring down the cost for the actual lease in total, depending on what we can do.
correct, because if we, that's what I was trying to get at, and I didn't ask it very well. It almost brings us up to like $1 million, close to. Because right now we're at, well, 428,000 positive right now as it stands. Obviously, things are gonna change. And then we've got 484. So it's really like closer to 9 in the million. That's what I was getting to is so, okay,
It'd be a little more than 9.
in that range.
Yeah.
So, if it's looking that way in April, then I think we might, I might look at taking some of today's money and spending it on tomorrow, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. Some, not a lot, but I think it's important that we return significant to the taxpayers too, but go ahead, Marjorie.
Any questions on that, Chief?
Expenditures?
Yeah.
Good.
You have a question somewhere, John. The way that you just,
Food service, not surprising.
okay, food service, yes. Yep, so at the bottom for the general fund expenditures, you can see that there is, like, there's some savings down there because we've been short-staffed for the most part at the middle school. But up above, with the shortfall of the revenue. But right now it's looking to be in the hole bit.
Is that 100?
And hopefully,
184, right?
right. But again, sometimes what we do is we buy a ton of supplies ahead of time
And that might,
and then they're not reflected, but then the revenue is reflected. So that's why there's the fluctuation sometimes from month to month. So,
yikes, all right. Yeah, that's where I was, go ahead, Joe.
For food service, I believe we had a pizza day,
Yes.
yes.
at the
the-
elementary.
Domino's,
Domino's,
yep.
and I know we're having one tomorrow
Yep.
and Friday.
Yep.
Could we just get numbers to see, how good they were? Getting the pizza, did the kids like?
Yeah,
it?
For Domino's.
did they break the bank down there or?
Did we run out of pizza? I mean, there was one other thing too. I was a little bit surprised. Maybe because it's a time issue, I don't know. At some schools, they can go up, some kids get second lunches at some schools. They get 2, they're hungry. Don't blame them. I heard that you can't, yeah.
I think that's true. I've seen kids get in line twice, right? Not you.
I said, well, yeah, I do.
Yeah, kids get in line.
Don't hate me.
Well, it's more of other schools. I don't know about this one. I haven't asked about
The littlest one?
Yes,
I wouldn't be surprised there.
so.
They might be more restrictive in the fact that, I don't want to be tricked, but they go back and get mac and cheese and go get mac and cheese again and only mac and cheese.
Okay.
I'm just-
My pocket, so.
Well, yeah.
They want mac and cheese.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did we ever resolve the milk issue where the kids couldn't just get a milk? Not a,
It was an issue and I will talk to you about that off the record.
is
They
it-
can't, it's the rules. I'll,
whose rules is it?
it's the federal government's.
That that child cannot just buy a milk?
That's right, if they're on a plan. Now, I have
Can I
said,
buy ice cream?
I have said I will buy
I'll buy a kid.
the year. Well, you don't, I've done it, so don't worry about it. But I've made that clear too, that if that's the issue and that's all they want, here's $50 and that takes care of the milk for the year. That's the rule.
That's one of
I think that's the-
the dumbest
Thank you.
rules I've ever heard.
I know, Tony, and I agree with you.
I'm not
Both of
blaming
our
you.
heads
I
were
just
gonna
think
explode that day, but I mean, yeah, sometimes you get around it. Yep, that's right. You can't, yes, that's exactly right. So
you can.
how I did it was handed my debit card.
Like banging your head against the wall.
So is the idea that they don't want them getting just milk, they want them getting a whole meal?
Correct.
So they're trying to force the issue.
I'll tell you, all I can say is that the kid, there was a student on a plan. They brought their own food. They brought a lunch,
And they just wanted the milk.
but they can't get the milk. They have to pay for the milk because they didn't get the meal. These are the rules. So I was like, just, all right, then, if you can't, here's my debit card. Here's $50, get it done. And it solved the problem. Yeah. It was, and it's,
Kind of crazy, but
it is, but sometimes it is what it is. Go ahead.
Did we get a cost of how much it would be for these individuals that are on plans to buy a milk and then?
Right, if my kid wants milk for lunch, he gotta have it in his bag all day, that's gross. Who wants warm milk? Seriously, who wants warm milk?
Thermoses of these Stanley cups.
Come on, buying my kid a $50 cup to bring milk to school.
Refrigerated.
If they look back at the kid, then when you smashed it, it shattered and then your dad yelled at you because you smashed your.
My kids are lucky if they bring their clothes home from school.
Right.
Don't send them with anything extra.
I think it would be hard for us to calculate because I don't know how many
It's not a-
students
yeah.
actually
You know,
do that.
I got it.
Do you know what I mean?
so how much,
Charged.
Yeah, it's minimal. Doesn't have a lot.
I know it's minimal, but it shouldn't be up to the superintendent to sit
Oh.
there and fix the gap in the stupidity of the law.
we know how much we
Sometimes you gotta do it,
spend
Joe.
to supply
Sometimes-
milk?
Huh?
How much do we spend on buying milk for the year? Is it a small enough number that
Oh, I
we
don't.
can talk about an alternative?
I'm not trying to add another half hour to this discussion.
I
too.
know.
Sorry, I didn't.
It's not a big deal.
Here, put a cover on that can of worms.
Yeah, it's taken care of. It is what it is.
Well, if you need any money,
I got it.
Can you
I'll
get
chip
chocolate
into
milk?
that. Yes, they can. I spent the extra 2
Okay.
cents for the chocolate. I'm joking.
bring your own straw.
Yeah.
They don't provide straws anymore.
All right. Anything else for food? That's her, right?
Esther is next. You are correct. So Terry and I have talked about this. We've not had a chance yet to talk with the grant team about certain stuff in regards to the ESSER 3 grants because,
I know. I got it.
because we're getting audited by the DOE. Not audited, but they come out and they do fiscal monitoring. So they've been busy trying to pull the information from that and the files that we have are downstairs. So they have to go downstairs, find the files, bring them upstairs, make copies of them. Yeah, basically. So Terry and I need to work with them just to make sure that the salaries are reconciled and to make sure that these certain positions that we have now taken out of here are going into the general fund, but to get them written into there through September 30th. And then I think Terry has some ideas to propose to you when we find out what that bottom line figure is going to be after we make those changes.
The bottom line right now is about 74,800. Anything else from Marjorie? Thank you, Marjorie.
You're welcome.
Next up, Lamprey River Elementary School and the Arbor Homeschool Middle School safe grant agreements. Approval of board chair signature. Yep, the LRS and IHGMS Safe Grants have been approved for funding. In order to secure the funds, the school board chair and the superintendent must sign the agreements, each to be submitted to the New Hampshire ED. The Safe Grant for LAS will be used to replace the current intercom system. The system is also the mass notification system for emergencies and will include new features to make it as effective as possible. Every space in the building will be outfitted with a new speaker as well as wiring. Areas in the building that are prone to elevated noises such as the cafeteria and band room will receive amber strobe lights that will notify building users that the intercom has been activated and they need to be quiet. We will also be installing blue lockdown/panic buttons that will play a pre-recorded message in the event of a violent critical incident. These buttons will also be tied into a dialer to notify dispatch that they have been activated. The system is accessible from any phone in the building and will have 2 phones that tie directly into the system in the event we lose the network, which our current phone systems require us to operate. The Safe Grant for the middle school will replace all of the current key cores and aftermarket thumb turns. They will be replaced with new key cores and more streamlined key system. The new thumb turns will be indicator thumb turns, thus making it easier for people in the room to see locked or unlocked to lessen any confusion in the event of an emergency.
I got a question.
Did you?
What's the difference between a thumb turn and an indicator thumb turn?
I have no idea. I was even struggling trying to read thumb turn, thumb indicator.
I assume that's a lock.
Yeah, it's like
Thumb
the
indicator.
porta potty thing goes from red to green.
Yeah.
I would equal streamlined system. The new thumb turns will indicate the indicator thumb. There must be a red or a green on it.
Yeah, like it.
Yep.
So I can look forward to hearing elementary school announcements once again. And flashing lights, so I know that they're talking.
You know to be ready.
Do we have that income system in our CIP right now? Is that on our list?
Is, but yes, so that would be
It
something.
was, I don't know if it still is.
I don't either, because I think we were
Coming up,
Yeah.
because we knew we were getting the grant, so I don't remember if it was taken out
If
or
it was
not.
taken out or
Yeah,
not?
part of the clock and all that replacement, right? Wasn't that or something different? Am I
Different.
Confusing those two? Oh, and the clock in there's an hour slow.
It just went back. It'll give it a couple months.
It only took 4 years to fix it last time.
All right. We can get a motion to authorize the board chair to sign the safe grant agreements for the middle school and elementary school.
I will make a motion to authorize the board chair to sign the safe grants for the middle school and elementary school.
Second.
Second, sufficient, folks? That motion, Terry, Marjorie, somebody?
Does it have to be individual?
I did,
Oh.
we're good with the motion is what I'm asking.
One motion.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a second by Cindy. Question or discussion? All those in favor? Aye, motion passes unanimously. Next up, policy annual review, policy BCA, school board member ethics, and BCB, board member conflict of interest. And this is, the auditors have requested us to do this, and we've been doing this for a number of years. Do we need to do anything other than that, Marjorie?
No.
We don't need to read them. My memory was we don't, right? Questions, comments on this?
So yeah, we added this BCB recently just to basically single out Terry and anyone he knows or is related
Yeah.
to. Is not allowed to.
Right, we were worried, yeah.
Well, it was an issue.
No, I know. Yeah, we changed the
So
policy.
yeah,
Yep,
that's good.
cleaned it up a little bit. All right, and does it get noted on the policy that we reviewed it, or what does it do? Okay.
Yep. So that's basically what they look for every year. Yep.
That is-
Right. Cool. So we're good on that. Next up, speeding along. New revised policy, second reading. No revisions to any of the three. First one is IKL, academic honesty and integrity. See if we can get a motion.
I will make a motion to accept Vernon School District Policy IKL, academic honesty and integrity.
Second.
Second by Steve. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye, motion passes unanimously. Get a motion for JCA, change of class or school assignment, best interest and manifest hardship.
I will make a motion to move policy JCA, change of class or school assignment, best interest and manifest hardship.
Second by Cindy. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye, motion passes unanimously. Next up, KCD, public donations and acceptance of gifts.
I'll make a motion to accept Raymond School District Policy KCD, public donations and acceptance of gifts.
Second,
Second?
second by Steve. Discussion. Go ahead.
Does this mean that we will no longer have to, anything under 2,500 will have to go before the board?
We will no longer see that, correct? Only 25 and above. All those in favor?
I,
Motion passes unanimously. Next up, school board committee assignments. All right. Before I start, there was one omission and we need to have an REA negotiating team. So that's one thing that we'll need to add to the list.
Speaking my language.
Policy committee.
I would love to stay on that. That's my favorite.
I'll do that if nobody else objects. So Tony and John.
Oh, boy.
Given that dream team a run for its money, Joe.
Next up,
First, you or me, we're gonna do this like the Beatles alphabetical?
no,
Okay,
you get the most money on the,
all right, I get first bill, starring.
you get the.
You're the headliner.
That's right.
Or
On
be
the
featuring.
That's right. Technology committee.
I'd like to stay on that.
Now it says there's two. Is there two or is it just one? I always remember it as one.
it was one with an alternate before, but because it was.
Mid-plan.
Yeah, it was like mid-year.
Okay, that's what it was.
In the middle of
In the middle of
the
the
plan.
plan.
Okay, so really we need just an alternate.
Yeah, they handed off halfway through, I think,
Yeah.
after the plan.
I can be the alternate.
Okay,
All right, Joe.
so Steve is the rep and then Joe will be the alternate. Now, strategic planning committee is blacked out, but I don't understand why.
Is that already?
No, we don't need a plan.
Well, we have a plan.
Yeah.
In theory, it should be updated periodically.
I would say that's a good strategy.
Okay.
Should we do it strategically?
Yes, well,
I would hope. Well, no, because
Yeah,
we approved it
last year.
January of 23.
Yep.
Historically, we've looked at it and updated it because I know on some of these things, some of the things are gonna be all done. So, go ahead.
I got up because I thought it was fireworks.
Oh.
It's basically like hailing and snowing outside right now.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
yeah.
it could have been fireworks, so that wasn't a bad guess.
That's crazy.
Any time of year around here, never know.
Yeah, that's fine, John. I didn't know the history here. So that works for me.
So we need someone.
I'll do it again. I don't know if anybody else is used to, if they'll be object.
I just wanted to mention if that was blacked out, that I think was just an error on my part. I don't think that
Oh,
was
it's fine.
intentional. Yeah.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah.
Anybody else besides myself?
I'll do that one too.
Okay.
Zach. I'll give you first bill on that one.
Oh, thanks. Offset the other one. Wellness committee?
I'll do it again.
Is it two, Joe, or is it just one?
Tony was the other one.
If I didn't miss every one, I would consider it, but I literally only made it to one.
That doesn't work every once in a while.
Yeah, you
When do you guys work? When do you guys usually meet? Is it daytime?
In the morning, right?
Oh, okay.
No,
In the afternoon.
Oh, is it afternoon, early afternoon?
Early afternoon,
Assuming?
1:00.
One, yes. Yeah.
Not typically a time I could do it occasionally, but I can't commit.
We do it, we do have some remote participants, so as long as there's enough in the room.
I can be in as an
One,
alternate.
you'll be doing better than I did.
Sure, I'll jump on with Joe.
I tried.
So we'll put you now, for the second one, and if it works out, it works out. If not, just the same as having Joe doing it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Does there need to be two on there? Like, is there?
Not really, but
all right, REA
Joe and
sick leave bank.
that's just an email situation, right?
Hmm?
That's not very often and they just kind of.
Well,
by
the one
consensus.
time I did it, it was, I think I did it remotely. I just don't remember if it was because of COVID or if it was because
I thought it was
That's
an
what they
email
were doing.
thing that you just answer yes. or
No, the one I participated in was, it was a remote meeting.
They don't meet that often.
I can do that.
Right. Seacoast School of Technology, that one is in Exeter at late afternoon, early
4
evening.
o'clock every third Monday.
I can do that again if nobody wants it.
I got select board meetings on Mondays. I can't.
Double up.
Sorry.
I'll get you out there.
I can't do it.
Wind bill. All right, is there an alternate? Would anybody like to be Joe's alternate? Okay. Transportation Committee.
I can do that one too if nobody really wants
Yeah,
it.
man,
I don't see a lot of people like jumping up and down.
I'll do that if Joe's booked.
You want to be,
No one meets.
so Joe and then Tony.
That's almost an email one.
Yeah, that's the one you get.
You get the complete, well, you gotta drive out, but it's
Desktops and stuff like
I
that.
mean, what is it, once a month, John, maybe somebody, it's 2 or 3.
It's busier at the beginning of the
Yeah, and then it's.
and then it weans off and then
I can do that one, I guess. Or
it just
Yeah.
So it's transportation.
you want to do
gonna
it,
be
Joe?
Tony?
You want me to do it?
It's up to you. I don't.
I'll do it. I don't care. I'm telling you, I'm gonna try to not do budget committee this year. If I can-
All right.
Does anybody want to?
Speaking of,
I wouldn't mind. actually
Budget
being on
committee?
that.
I was gonna volunteer, but if you want to volunteer, is anybody? Steve?
I'll do alternate, but unless you want to do alternate.
Anybody want to be alternate? I know, Tony, you got,
I'll be alternate for budget.
all right, Tony, is that Cindy?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'm just,
I'm saying if nobody else wants to do it, that's how I did it for the last 3 years. Nobody else wanted to do it.
okay. Cable committee?
I'll do the cable committee.
All right, so,
I'll be the alternate again.
and Joe's the alternate for cable? Okay. Capital improvements?
Does that one ever meet or?
Well,
Easy one. I might be able to handle that one.
the cable, capital improvement traditionally meets early summer into maybe the fall. It didn't do that in the calendar year 23. We did meet once in January of this year.
So,
But I think there's more interest on the town side. But again, this is the planning board's, lack of a better word, committee.
I'll do
They're
that.
the ones that are in,
Since I'm,
we need two.
I'll take the other one.
I'm involved in
Okay,
everything else involved.
Tony and Steve. Next one, Coalition for Youth, Raymond Coalition for Youth.
If nobody.
I mean, that's
It's
all
in the
year
morning.
long once,
Yeah, it's like
I could do it in
9:30,
the
right?
Summer, but I can't really do it during.
Yeah,
the
that's during the school, every month, or most every month, right?
Yeah, is that the meetings they have over at the church?
Yeah. Currently, yeah.
I think my wife goes.
I mean, I can try to do it with my job right now, but can't guarantee anything, but I can. Might be able to finagle my way into it.
It's a tough one.
Yeah. It's in the, middle of the morning, so it's.
Cause my work was like, hey, you're not even working enough hours now to be considered full time. What are we doing? I'm like, need that insurance. Come on now.
All right, next, so Joe, you'll do the coalition?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have an alternate, or would somebody like to be the alternate?
When does it meet? Thursdays?
Thursdays at 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
9:30 to 11.
If you want to put me on it as a backup, but that'll be one of those. It might be like the wellness. I don't know, depending on the time. And I can try to go if you can't go. You'll just have to let me know, as long as it's not every week.
Once a month.
Oh, that's not too bad. Sorry, I missed that part.
All right. Mentor for the student representative. I can do that.
Oh, you don't jump at that guy.
She's like,
It's more about balancing everything else we've got.
I mean, I would totally not mind doing it, but I'm not.
2 years that I did it, we had COVID, so it's.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
All right,
did it, the kids
New Hampshire
quit, so-
School Board Association, and in this case, it's the annual delegate assembly.
I like doing that one. If somebody wants it. They know me by heart now.
I think Joe is the face of SAU 33 as far as that goes.
All right, last one is the REA negotiating team. I'd like to do that.
I like that also.
I'd really like to do that one too.
So we're gonna,
Oh, coin.
Sorry.
Wow, that's just.
oh, we need, is it, we don't have a list. Is it 2 and an alternate? Just 2?
Just to,
All right, cage match, fight it out.
Just a coin.
This is one that I really want to be on.
Somebody want to step back?
well, yeah, if somebody, if there's 3 of us, ultimately what happens is the board chair makes a decision. Then if somebody doesn't like the decision, there's a vote. So for me, cut to the vote. Does that work for everybody?
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Right? No, I mean.
Or if somebody wants to.
No, because what's gonna happen is I pick 2 people. Chances are I'm gonna pick myself.
I mean, that's one of the benefits of
Well,
in that position.
right, but my point being, why do that? And then if we're just gonna vote. So to me, the easiest thing to do is to vote. Is that fair does that work for everybody? Because that's ultimately how the policy works. Somebody objects, then it's a vote of the board. My question is how do we want to do this?
I will just gracefully bow out of this and allow Joe to take it.
And me.
And you.
All right.
You were already there.
That's what I was trying to drive at. All right. So it's Joe and I.
I put Joe twice, but that's,
All right.
that was easy.
All right. Next up. Nominations, resignations. Terry?
I have several nominations. I have Janet El Sayed, BCBA, SAU.
Get a motion for Jenna Alciet.
I'll make a, oh, go ahead. I'll make a motion that we accept the nomination of Jenna Al Sayed as the BCBA at the middle school or
Just BCBA.
SAU.
okay, at the SAU.
BCABA, and that's.
BCBA at the SAU.
Get a second?
Second.
Second by Tony. All those in favor? Aye, motion passes unanimously.
I have a nomination for Amanda Mazza, BCBA, SAU.
I'll make a motion that we accept the nomination of Amanda Massa for BCBA at the SAU.
Second by Joe. All those in favor? Aye, motion passes unanimously.
I have a nomination of Selena Lloyd, school board clerk.
I'll make a motion that we accept the nomination of Selena Boyd as the school board clerk.
Second,
Second.
second by Cindy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And
Thank you.
before I go on, I just wanted to thank Jen for filling in the last couple months. So thank you, Jen.
Yes, bless you, Jen.
Yes.
That would have been me writing a mile a minute.
Or it just been like, discuss school things.
Right. Either that or it's a
You might get some hairy eyeballs. That's enough discussion, fellas.
It's
Wrap it up.
better a 75-page chat GPT version.
All right. Next up. Board member input, possible future agenda items. Again, what we do is if somebody has something they want in the future, we'll generate a list and get them on as soon as we can. Obviously, as the year progresses, people can ask for things to be added as the year goes on, but just gives us visibility to try to plan accordingly. Anybody have anything they would like to add at this time?
I think I probably already gave mine in the last couple of weeks.
Well, if you could just give them again so that we know, just to make sure.
One of them was a hiring process. Look at that.
All right.
The other one we talked about today, now it's completely lost on my train of thought.
Vending machines?
Impact fees?
Impact fees, that's all.
Impact.
Guess the stuff I would
And-
want to discuss is more policy based, but
Impact fees. Anything else, Joe?
That was it for me, finally.
The one thing I would like to have discussed, and it's we have let's say a number of building permits out there that have either been approved or potentially or in front of the planning board. And what I'd like to do is have a conversation, or Terry have a conversation with the town to figure out how many are out there currently. Do some calculations as to, okay, when do we think these are gonna be built? So for example, if we have a hypothetical, 100 housing unit on street XYZ, when is that gonna happen? And the reason I'm asking that is there's a lot out there that I've heard, hundreds of units, whether it's individual or apartment or condo or whatever flavor it is, that impact us to try to plan years down the road as to what we're gonna do to accommodate those students. You know, if we had 50 students come in tomorrow, we'd be able to accommodate them. But if we had hundreds, how would we do that and where we would do that? And that's what I wanted to have a conversation about. And so basically getting information and then trying to make decisions going forward from that.
if it pleases the board, I could probably get that information for you.
Thank you. Look at it.
Definitely pleases Terry. So
My wife has got all that stuff and
All right, I'll shoot you and
as a planning
email to remind you.
alternate, I'm a guy.
I think it should
And a
come from
town
Terry.
guy.
I think the request should come from Terry
All right, you can,
through the town so that way we got Terry and Ken communicating and. Yep. Go ahead. Did you have something, Steve?
yeah, it's just sort of a random question in that zone, I suppose, is, I don't know. When someone buys a house, is there any way for us to find out? You know, how many,
paper.
Well, no, what is the occupants gonna look like?
yeah,
What's the demographics?
what are the demographic? Yeah, I mean, obviously out of curiosity, to your point, if, you know, there's a bunch of new units going up on 107, is it?
They don't know who's gonna buy them.
Well, I know, but as they are sold, it would be very nice to be able to say, hey, 10 just sold, in those 10 are 25 children or children, you know what I
I don't
mean?
know how you would go about.
I don't know.
getting that
It would be
information,
very rare.
aside from standing at the door and reading them.
Welcome. We're gonna have a welcome basket.
Yeah.
Can you take this basket and how many kids are back there? There are 3? I don't know. I just was, like, it'd be nice to be able to get that
For
data.
me, when I talked to Terry about this originally, you know, he had indicated, I think the number was 1.5 each unit. You know, kids,
That's, yeah.
but it's 0 to 18. But at least it gives us a starting point to say, over the next 5 years, we think we're gonna get X number more students. And then we can start having conversations about what are we gonna do going forward? Because the worst thing a board can do is react to it as opposed to
Yeah, prepare.
prepare for it and then have plans in place. Because the other part is, I think the earliest we can do anything is 27, I think is what we were told last time. And I'm not suggesting we do anything at this point, but at least we'll have information. So if we want to do something, we're starting accumulating information.
My vote is for a knee-jerk reaction.
All right. Anybody else for board member input for future? All right. Thank you. Committee reports.
We had an SST meeting, yesterday. They talked about the electrical, they talked about putting, I think I talked about this before, putting an electrical class, more of an electrical, classroom, I should say.
Like for an electrician or something to, okay.
The discussion was, how are we going to pay for it? Is it going, because there's no grant money for, what was it, 2027, I think? they
Yeah,
said?
no, 30 years. Yeah, way out.
So like 2027.
For a like a Seacoast or technology school?
Yeah, whatever.
Or just general?
What was the grant?
30 years, there's no Perkins grant, because the last time the school was modified,
Oh,
it's 30 years until you're eligible again.
do something different.
Perkins grant.
Okay.
So a couple of things came up, would you put it, I brought up, could you put it on a separate warrant article to pay for the class itself, to get the class ready? Because that's probably your biggest expense right off the bat, is getting the class modified so you can have the electrical class in there. Of course, with other districts that have multiple districts that still go to that school, it would be hard because if one of those districts said no, how would you divvy up the money then? I can see that. The other point was, the cost per pupil will go up. Of course, that's hard too, because you have some, the cost per pupil will go up significantly higher if you stayed where you are than if you brought more kids in, because it would be just at the cost per pupil. Right off the bat, especially that first year until they divvied everything out. So that was a couple of different ways that they were looking at that. The other thing they were looking at was how many students there were. So right now, and it's been pretty consistent, that about 15% of the population goes to SST. I think that's what they said.
15% of the sending districts.
Sending districts, yep. Population go to SST. That's been about the same. Of course, if it stays the same and our population goes down, well, SST's population goes down, which is making our cost increase, because you still have the same amount of teachers there for the most part, that you're paying more money. I mean, it's just a matter of numbers. One other thing that they discussed was for Exeter students, they were going to have a English class there for them to take, for Exeter students only.
Isn't like 80% of the school Exeter kids, like a huge number of them?
There's a
Like
decent
150 of them.
majority of them.
It's over 50%.
Yeah. Well, it's not just Exeter either.
Well,
It's a cooperative district, so
yeah,
it's
that area.
Exeter and whatever else,
Yeah.
other schools there are.
Kids that would be going to school in Exeter anyway.
East Kingston,
Yeah.
Adam. Yep.
Of course, that, it might not make sense for a Raymond kid to want to take, the English class, but it makes more sense for the Exeter kids because they're in Exeter. So.
I have no idea what that means. So that's the only school they go to, or they don't?
They might have less options to go back to their sending school. I mean, if you look at the smaller districts within Exeter Cooperative District, instead of them going back to take their English class, they could take it there, and that way they would expand what they can take at their regular school if they needed to take it.
Right, but everybody in the district goes to Exeter High School.
Correct, but they have more options like buses, stuff like that. They have more options there than we do. Like we have one bus that goes back, they can take another bus and, here you go. You can go back later, you took your course.
Because it's not at the high school, it's in downtown Exeter. It
Yeah.
is, because that's where the Exeter High School used to be.
So, the other thing was, they looked at the calendar because of September.
Only Winnicott. We all said no, so
Yeah,
we moved on from that.
We moved on to that one.
All right, not an issue.
That's on you.
But the Winnicott problem?
Yeah, it's a September, whatever it is primary day. And we were all like, it's a state primary, we could all handle that. We had to.
Yeah, we got a building selection issue, don't we?
Yes. And another thing too, I don't know, did you mention this, how all the classic, traditional, hands-on, vocational are full with waiting lists?
Oh, yes.
And I was like, I brought that up. I was like, so electrical, you would have it full because of the need. While the other ones aren't as full, the more college prep.
Even though most classes were, they had a good selection. I think it was like 5 or 6 courses that are full or have waiting
But they're-
lists.
They were all the hands-on ones.
Yeah, and then, the other ones, they can go in there, so if there's any student listening that might have missed the date, they want to join a class that they've sat.
Still openings, right?
Still opening.
Now, to outfit the classroom to allow electrical.
Yeah.
Why was it brought up if they don't have a funding source? What was the rationale behind bringing it up?
Find the funding source. Do we want it? Do we want Exeter to take a look at it and put it in?
Yeah, they can pay for that all they want. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
Right, Marjorie?
Well, we're paying for it. We'd be paying for it, no?
No, but I mean, so the decision was what?
They're gonna look into it.
They're looking into it, because they don't know the exact cost right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it a $100,000 question or is it $1 million question?
And one of the things is would they have somebody sponsor the program?
Do they do that with like the automotive?
They do a couple things. I don't remember if automotive was.
It's fine.
I don't.
They get, yes, they get gifts. They get.
I understand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Donations and all that. But the initial cost to outfit the lab. I understand. $150,000 has got to come from somewhere. Yeah, that's why I was, yeah. All right. Anybody else for committee reports? All right. Superintendent report, Terry.
As Ryland mentioned, the job fair was today over at the high school. I took a walk around. One of the first times I've ever seen this was they actually had a heavy equipment operator, recruiters actually willing to teach kids how to run backhoes and all that. They start out as labor, and it just so happened that the Air Force recruiter walked up at the same time I was talking to the heavy machine guy, and I was like, this is deja vu, because I did that in the Air Force. And they were they were all quite surprised by that. But yeah, I did a read aloud with grade 5 today, 21 steps. Oh, I had a hard time getting through. It was about the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So we had an excellent discussion with the whole 5th grade about Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and just, the grandfathers, the fathers, the dads, the moms who were all in the military. So that was very good. We did have our PD day last week. We did a lot of vertical alignment. 4th and 5th grade teachers met with LRES teachers at the middle school library from 8 to 12. This was part of the K-5 curriculum alignment initiative where we had teachers meet in grade level teams to review their scope and sequence documents, then in vertical teams to evaluate the alignment of the scope and sequence from grade to grade, and then back to grade level teams to discuss any revisions. The focus areas were science, social studies, and math. Artifacts from this PD included a unit review by grade subject for each trimester, as well as updated scope and sequence documents that will be uploaded to the school district website when ready. English, math, and science teachers from grades 6 to 12 met here at the high school for 4 hours, working on aligning the curriculum from year to year. The focus was on the skills needed to proceed to the next grade level. Pete said he's going to scan me the artifacts. UA teachers met at the elementary, LRES, met by content area to discuss the topics units they teach. UA teachers discussed the skills and topics needed for the next grade level. Teachers completed a reflection sheet of their curriculum maps and noted any updates that were needed. At the high school, I thought this was kind of cool. Teachers, teachers used a protocol to debrief the chapters of their school-wide book they're reading of One Trusted Adult by Brooklyn Rainey. The book lays out the critical nature of trust between students and adults, the importance of boundaries and clear expectations, how to create a culture that cares for the whole child. Moving forward, we're bringing leadership training to students through the authors, the Be Bold program. That's all I got.
Good, Joe.
So we only had supposedly had people for PD at the elementary school and at the high school, correct?
No, at the middle, all 3 schools.
Sorry. Would it be more feasible to have the middle school go somewhere else next time we have a big election?
Well, a big one, yeah.
Well, actually, we had quite a few people at the town.
Yeah.
1,300.
Yeah. It wasn't as.
Was that the total number? 13?
Presidential one, we won't be here.
Okay.
We'll find someplace else to go because that'll be a big one.
On that piggybacking, is it possible, for example, we're going to have the primary could be in June in 26, regardless of when but we've got a primary coming up in September. I think. I don't think they're going to change it. I'm not sure. The legislation is talking about changing it. I'm just not sure if it's going to be this year. Regardless. And we'll be in school that day if it's in September. Is it possible to have some staff delegated to parking other than the front parking?
Yeah, that's what they typically park around the sides and around the back and all that stuff. I don't know if they did it this time, but that's typical. Well,
there were times at the middle school where voting day on last Tuesday, parking was sometimes hard to find. And people were saying, there's we've got some staff here.
Yeah.
And that contributed to, so if we could have some park out back or out on the side, I know at the classroom wing, and I don't know if that happened there.
I don't either, but yes.
We could just coordinate that in the future. I think that'd be a good thing for make things easier. Thank you. Anything else for Terry? Correspondence or other?
I have
Go ahead.
message from my wife.
I don't think that counts. down.
Read the right.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean,
Great text.
Says, the LRES PTO is in need of volunteers for the mother-son party on April 13th. You can email lrespto@sau33.com to help. And, Monster concert, I went to that. It was cool.
Oh, I forgot the melody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was awesome.
Watch Terry stand up in front of everybody and block their view.
Break. Terrible things in the world.
Yeah, they're
Trying to get
tough.
My wife, can we stand up? Or
I stood in the hall,
Yeah.
but, yeah, that was a good time too, so.
yeah, I was there as well. It was very cool. You did a nice job.
Thank you. That was it.
All right. Manifest signing, Audrey?
I actually have an error with the manifest tonight.
Don't have that.
An error. I don't know how to fix this with you guys. I'm just gonna. So last, 2 weeks ago, when I presented you guys with the manifest, we had, I don't know if you noticed, they were handwritten because our system was not printing checks. We could not print checks. We couldn't pull the paperwork, whatever. The printer just stopped working. So there were 2 of them that added up the invoices and everything was fine. And I double checked them. All the invoices added up fine. We could not print these checks until last week. And we realized it was a bigger problem because when we were trying to do payroll last week, we could not cut the paper checks either. So there was a huge system that had happened between us and our accounting system software. So one of the ones that you guys signed off on last week was it's actually less. There was an invoice in there. When we go through and we enter invoices in our system, it tells us if we have a duplicate invoice number. One of the invoices that you signed off on was actually a duplicate. So we've taken it out. So what you guys approved at the last meeting was $4,000 cheaper.
Okay.
So I'm asking you guys to just sign
There.
off on this one.
Did I sign that one?
I have Cindy, John, and I think that might have been Steve. Is that one yours right there?
Yes, that's
Yes,
me.
yeah.
So what are you looking for, them initial?
To sign the correct one.
Does it matter?
The last minute.
I don't think so.
I think it's just 3 of
I
them.
haven't signed it.
I'm attaching it together for our auditors anyway, in case something does
You
come
need
up.
me to initial the top one too and then sign? or
Nope,
just
because I'm
sign?
gonna leave them together.
Okay.
Thank you.
So any 3 of us can sign is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yep. So with that being said, accounts payable tonight, $599,820.36. Payroll, $491,649.09 for a grand total of $1,091,478.35. And Jennifer, I'll email that to you right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Has it been signed, by the way?
They've all been signed
Thank you.
for that one.
All right. Next up, approval of minutes, March 5th, 2024.
Make a motion. For March 5th.
A second.
Second by Steve. All those in favor? Aye, motion passes unanimously. Next up, May 6th, 2024.
I'll do the ones for March 6th, 2020.
Did I say May? Sorry. March.
Accept the March 6th, 2024 minutes.
A second. Oh, good.
Second by Cindy. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next up, if we get a motion to go into non-public, please.
Motion to go non-public session under RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, A, C, and M.
Second? Second by Cindy. Joe?
Yes.
Cindy? Tony?
Yes.
Steve?
And myself, yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I almost tripped over that.
Snows out there now.